Okay, looks like we're live. Welcome to the live stream, guys. Hope everybody's doing well. And it's the Monday live. I'm a little late. It's been a wild day. We'll talk about it all in a little bit. Probably going to do the gas price thing a little bit later on. And let's just get my chat phone set up here so I can see the chat as you guys show up. But yeah, so it's the Monday live. It's been wild, man. The Amazon Web Services is down today. I think it went down at like 3 o'clock this morning. This has affected all kinds of things across the board. My mount that I normally use in the window, I think it's in the Jeep. I think I left it over there after doing a video the other day. So I don't have the mount that I normally have. I have this. So this is this is one of those mounts that basically it hooks up to the vents in the car, to the little vents. And so I'm using that right now, and we'll see how good this works. Hopefully it's not too shaky, but if I move, it's probably going to shake or whatever. But different perspective today. So we always like different perspectives on life, don't we? Anyway, so yeah, so that's the deal. Having technical difficulties, but we're here. So hope everybody's doing well, and we'll get into it in a little bit. So I'm gonna go get the chat phone going. See what we got. All right. So yeah, Amazon Web Services down today. It's been wild. So this hasn't affected me exactly, although I do have I have a Robinhood account. It's not my main like brokerage account or anything, but I have a Robinhood account, right? Now I looked at it earlier and I was like, man, it's kind of weird. You can't trade, you can't buy and sell. So for a while that was going on, and then I have a couple friends who do Amazon. They drive Amazon Flex, like side hustle or whatever. And they were telling me, they were like, dude, I can't get any routes. They don't know what to do at the warehouse. They're sending people home, all this stuff. So it's been crazy. It's probably been a lot more crazy for other people out there than me. I've just been rolling along. I've had, had to go drive about an hour drive or whatever to go sourcing, do some bin store stuff. So obviously, I've just been doing that. I've just been doing my normal thing. But for a lot of people today, especially of the Amazon Flex workers, the probably some of the drivers, just regular Amazon drivers, things like that, have been out of the ball game today. So that's crazy. What's up, Fever Dream Animation? Hope you're doing well. How's my audio? Let me know how my audio is. Make sure everything's working. We've got a different perspective today. Got a different mount. I left my mount in another vehicle. So, but we're still here, still doing the live. Trying to be consistent with the Monday midday lives, and I appreciate you guys being here. It's just a cool place to come and hang out for a little bit. Audio is good, thank you. And also thank you for being here. I love you, XOXO. I hope you're doing well today. So it's working okay, that's what it said. Okay, so whoever's texting me, you have to text me on the other phone, I'm live. Anyway, but yeah, so it's been wild. I don't know if it's worldwide, but this is the East Coast data center, which is in Northern Virginia, from what I understand. And now, for those of you guys who don't know, Virginia, the state of Virginia and that whole area, there's a lot of data centers. So all the stuff that we do on the internet has to go through a data center, a physical hub that has... I guess it's a lot of processors and things like that. I'm not, a tech guy, but these data centers are very important for all of this internet stuff, everything we do. So all the YouTube videos, all the business transactions, all of this stuff. And so what the Amazon Web Services is being used by like a lot of these different companies, apparently. So apparently if you have like Robinhood, if you have I guess Canva, oh goodness, man, the list goes on and on. If you had any outages, let me know in the chat. If you had an outage on an app or something, some kind of service that you were using. But I guess these guys are all using Amazon's Web Services to do their thing. So it's been a wild day. And I wonder what will come of this. So it's also very interesting because it wasn't just some little thing that just happened to be, an outage for an hour or 2 hours. It's an ongoing thing. Like they're still having issues. Like I said, the individual that I was speaking about earlier, who's driving Flex, they're basically still not able to get shifts. I think they said that some were popping up, but then it was on and off. They're saying, okay, we're back online, and then it's not working. So very interesting stuff there. Let me see what just catch up with the chat. Said that now it's doing something weird. Oh, really? Oh, from an incoming text? Because you're on the phone? Okay, that's cool. So as long as you can still hear me. Yeah, I'm just doing a lot of stuff different today in the car, so I'm in a different angle, but I have the same setup, so everything should be working. If you guys can hear me, that's wonderful. But yeah, so it's been interesting, and so a lot of people at the Amazon Flex jobs and things like that, they really rely on these day-to-day gigs and to make this money right out here. And this really messed them up big time. So they're not going to get paid today, most of them. I don't know if people, sometimes I think if they show up and then they can't get a shift, they do still get paid. So I don't know if that's what's actually going to happen with some people. But obviously, if you were just going to go, head out and start the day, there's no shifts for you, you're not going to be able to work. So that's why I also always like to have multiple things going on. I talk about this on the channel all the time. You definitely want to have multiple things going on. Something like this happens, you have an outage. I think we're going to see more and more of this in the future, actually. It's always good to have a couple things that you can rely on to fall back on, rather. You know what I mean? So if this happened to me and eBay was down, well, I'm just going to go do something different, right? Go DoorDash. If YouTube's down, we're not doing the live, then I'm just going to go, I'll DoorDash. If the DoorDash is down, I'll go home and eBay. Because I have like 70 something pieces of products or whatever today that I got at the store. It was a crazy day. I had the bag. I usually just carry these IKEA bags. I have this IKEA bag here. These are what I use. You're just walking through the store and you have these bags. I had to buy this one at one of the bin stores. They don't let you go home with the plastic bags. They don't give you bags, so you buy a bunch of stuff. They don't give you a bag to go home with, so they make you buy this IKEA bag. But they're pretty tough. Like. They have they're well-built bags, basically. They can hold like a lot of weight. So anyway, but you're using something like that and you're filling it up. And I guess you could use a cart. I've never used a cart before, but today that thing was getting so heavy. I was kind of like dragging it sometimes because it was so heavy because of so much stuff today that I was getting. And it's just because some of the items had a little bit of weight to them. It's also the sheer number of items that we got. But it's good. I got a lot of items that are going to be 10, 15 pieces per listing, which is, I like to do that because obviously, you just need one listing and 10 or 15 pieces in there. So that's awesome. How you doing, Silver Stacker? Hope you're doing well. It's going pretty good. Now, did you have any outages with the Amazon Web Services situation that's going on? Anybody had any issues with any of the apps or whatever, let me know. I'd love to hear about it. But yeah, so like we were good, man. Everything was good. All the payment processing and everything worked great. So I was able to buy everything that I needed to buy. So my day has just been normal on that front, except for people hitting me up kind of like freaking out because they weren't able to work, because I know people that work jobs that are actually affected by this stuff. So it's very interesting. Silver price going up. I know silver price going up. This kind of stuff probably actually helps, helps the price go up, right, on silver. Yeah, this dependency on technology thing. You know what I mean? The dependency on technology is gotten so crazy that, like I said, literally I've had people hit me up today. Well, I can't work. I'm not able to make any money today, whatever. So they're going and doing different things, right? They're going and doing different things today. And so this will probably affect Amazon deliveries, also sales as well. So this is Amazon sellers are going to kind of take a hit. Not that some of the sales aren't just going to come back in, because if you can't buy it now, you'll probably buy it later when you're able to do that. So that's the kind of thing that's going on up here. Just a lot of people worried about not being able to work and all this stuff. So, but there's probably a lot of deeper issues, of course, with these bigger companies and I can imagine, I'm pretty sure that Robinhood makes money on whatever, there's probably, I don't know the market, like, is it called spread? I'm not sure, but I know they make money, with just a little differentiations between the market price and, what you buy an asset at, like these little differentiations in the price. I'm pretty sure they probably make money on that. Obviously they're not doing any sales today, or they weren't when I looked and checked in. I checked in later, it was working, so it's back online. But I mean, dude, an hour, how much does an hour cost Robinhood with no transactions, right? From the just the retail market, you know, just regular people that are on that app that are using it. So anyway, yeah, you know, that's how much does that cost that company, right? And do they start to look for different services other than Amazon Web Services, or or is this some kind of attack? Is this some kind of attack? Do you guys think it could be an attack from, you know, another company or another country or something like that going on? Okay, buy silver stocks and silver coins. Buy AG and PAS prices going up. I use Robinhood. Yeah. Okay. Yeah, I use Robinhood. I usually have a link in the description. It's not my main thing though. I don't. It's not my main brokerage app. I just have Robinhood because it's a little thing that I like to just put a little bit in there every week and play with it. That is some crazy stuff over there. But yeah, it's just interesting to see how this is going to affect things going forward. So I got enough people in here right now. I'll ask you for the first time, how much is gas where you're at? I got gas at $2.79 today, not far from here. And it seems to be about the same across the board around the state, at least where I've driven today. So, give or take. I know there's certain places in certain areas of the city, in different cities and whatnot, that have different prices on the gas. It can vary up to 25 cents per gallon, actually. Like over in Raleigh, I've seen it vary from like 264, not today, but like 264 all the way up to 289, whatever, 290. 299 even, so in different places in different parts of town. So but let me know what gas is wherever you're at, guys, if you're listening here, and just kind of get a gauge on that. I like to do that every Monday. We'll ask everybody, and so I get kind of a gauge. I'll be able to look back in the future, look back into the past and see what gas was. Okay, you're talking about your strategies there, what you're buying. Okay, see that in the chat. 259 where you are, and if you don't mind, where is that at, Silver Stacker? Where are you at with that gas there? Orlando, Florida. Okay, so 259 in Orlando, Florida. We got 279 here in North Carolina, Central North Carolina. It's about the same all around. I've checked that out. And for everybody else, let me know what fuel is like where you're at in the chat, if you don't mind. And 259 is pretty good. So gas may be coming down a little bit. Obviously, those groceries still haven't come down. Waiting for that. I don't think it's going to happen. I'm not holding my breath. I think what we can do is hope that they don't go up more, or up a significant amount, right? So that the inflation numbers, it's very interesting. They're way off. I think the inflation numbers are way low for what things are. I talked about this I don't know when I've mentioned this before, but I found old receipts from like a year, 2 years ago. The percentages were closer to like 50, 60, 70, 80% on some of the items. Like, closer to that than the, 3-4%, 2-3-4-5%, inflation numbers that we've been given over those times periods. Those time periods is like, they say, oh yeah, inflation's 6% on this type of goods. But if you look at the receipts, if you look at the old receipts, which I've done, you'll see that some of the stuff is up like 75, 80%. Maybe even 100% on some items, especially the lower cost items, things that were like $1. They may be $1.50, $1.60, $1.70, and you get what I'm saying. So I need to pull some of those receipts out, and we'll do a video on that. Maybe not on this channel, probably on my other one. I use the Upside app. I use the Upside app as well. It's another thing I usually put in the links of the videos. I don't have a link of this video, but in most of my regular videos, I have links to certain things. I think I link Coinbase. I have a Coinbase link, I have an Upside link, and a Robinhood link as well, because that's just an easy access type of thing that you can get into. But yeah, been sourcing, so I got a lot of pieces. I got stuff back here. Normally I have one big bag. I have two heavy bags in a box. Got a big box. This is candles. Actually candle. They're little glass candle containers, so you can make a glass with the little wood top, so you can make candles. My wife does that sometimes, and so I saw this and for $1, I think it's a dozen of these. Yeah, so 4-ounce candle making jars, comes with labels, all this stuff. So I picked those up for the wife so that she can make us some candles for the winter, because yeah, we were like making them, and we're gonna design a couple products to sell at one point in time, and we got overwhelmed. We kept having children, and we got overwhelmed with that, and not have enough room really in the house or whatever. So we have like 50 pounds, I think it is, of beeswax, and then I think we have some other materials. She's got some other stuff or whatever, but occasionally we still learn how to make candles, and occasionally we still make candles. So got those for her so that she can make some 12 candles there, and that'll be cool. So just for personal use, but we'll do maybe beeswax, and I think there was something else we mixed with it. I can't remember. I'm not the expert with the candle making stuff. That's my wife. So, but yeah, got those for that. And then, like I said, a ton of other stuff. I got this metal polish. I have a couple different brands of metal polish that are actually well known and well sought after. Metal polish tubes of the paste or compound for that. I'm going to use some on the headlights on this car that I'm driving because they're yellow. I'm going to see if I can improve the headlights a little bit. Use those, and maybe use I have this like buffing thing that goes on the drill. Might use that. See what I can do to improve the situation. I got a lot going on around me right now. I got the trash trucks coming to pick up the trash at the business I'm parked out in front of, and dude walking by there. So I got a lot going on around me. Trying to pay attention, but all right. So let's see what we're at. Let's see where we're at. You use the upside. Silver Stacker's talking a lot in the chat here. Fever Dream Animation. I believe if you're still here, let me know. I do have to catch up on some of your stuff. I love you, XOXO, in the chat as well. So I appreciate you guys being here and hanging out on the Monday live. And we'll see who else shows up, and we'll see what else is going on. So we got the Amazon warehouse thing going on. I got the eBay sourcing thing going on. I don't think DoorDash is down, so we'll check that later. I'll keep you guys updated on that. Make a little post if we have any issues there. But I don't think that they're using Amazon Web Services, because I didn't see that they were down, and I didn't hear anybody mention about that. And that's a pretty big one, and I think people would have probably mentioned that. So we'll see. Hopefully that's running, because that's probably what I'll be doing here in the next hour or so. Once we get done with the live, I'll usually go off and I'll do a little bit of DoorDash and stuff like that. Basically try to pull in whatever I spent on this, the equivalent. It doesn't go directly into it, but you know what I mean. The idea is like, if I spend $100 over here, I'd like to go make $100 back, and then we'll go make our profit on all those items. So, you've just been animating a Minotaur. All right, can't wait to see that. Hopefully you'll be showcasing that somewhere, and we'll be able to see it. I'll definitely like to check that out. But yeah, so let's see. There's a lot to talk about. There's a lot more to talk about. We had the No Kings protest here in America over the weekend. It seemed to be somewhat peaceful. So I say we, not me. I didn't go. I don't do that. I don't really protest. But and I'm not the biggest fan of that protest necessarily. But we always encourage everybody to peacefully, if they peacefully protest, I'm all for it. Let's just put it that way. I have no problem with it. I think they're a little bit misguided on the target, but as far as peaceful protests, it's good to see a lot of people want to stand up for what they perceive to be freedom. I think that if we took some of the differences out of the equation, I think we'd all realize that there's a couple different tiers of people here, and there's the ones that are being oppressed, and there's ones that are not. But I will say this: it's good to see the protest, because it means that we're still free to do that, right? I guess we don't have a king, because if we did, people wouldn't be able to protest. So, but I think focusing on a single president is probably not probably not the answer, because the president, he's like this guy right now, Trump, for example, he's only going to be in there for 3 years. So if you had a problem with anything he's doing, that's going to be carried on by the next person. And it's going to be carried on by somebody, whoever the next person is in office, and probably a Democrat, or maybe not, but it doesn't really matter. They go back and forth. I'll talk about this more on my other channel. Real Thoughts Project, definitely should check that out if you haven't already. Go subscribe to that channel if you're interested in freedom. That's kind of the basis of what we talk about over there. But yeah, I don't want to get too into it on this channel. I thought about doing a live stream this weekend, and because a lot of people are really, and this is probably, people are surprised, I support the No Kings right, the right to protest the No Kings stuff, even though I think that they're a little off, right, as far as the idea of what's going on. I think they're a little misguided, but I do support their right to protest. I think you should always do that. Support other people's right to protest, as long as things are not violent, as long as things are peaceful and orderly or whatever, and nobody gets out of hand and just gives everybody else a bad name, a bad look. Or starts breaking the law and stuff like that, because that's just simply is what it is. It's breaking the law, right? But yeah, it's also an attack on free speech, because if you start equating free speech and protesting with violence and things like that, and that's the kind of thing that gets governments to come down on you, come down kind of hard on you. And we don't want to do that. We don't want to do that for no reason. Obviously in this country, it's great that we have the freedom to speak out if we disagree with something. And so even if I disagree with your point of view, I support your right to speak out, because that's a feature of freedom. It's a feature of living in a free country. And it seems like we do live in a free country somewhat, because everybody was able to protest in all the cities and all the places. Yes, protests are needed. I agree with that. Kind of, it's fever dream. I don't know exactly what I don't know exactly what you're saying, but protests are needed. Yes. Have to get to point. Shouldn't have to get to point. Okay, yeah, whatever. If everybody shouldn't have to agree, protests are needed. I agree. I agree that. Okay. I think I know what you're saying. People shouldn't have to get to the point where protests are needed. I understand what you said now. Okay. Yeah, I actually agree with that. We shouldn't have to get to the point where protests are needed. I think in this country here, I'm not sure if we're really there where we need it, but it is possible that there are a lot of things that we should bring attention to, or that people should bring attention to. Government should pay more attention to petitions. Yeah, I can agree with that as well. If people have a lot of signatures and petitions on specific items or grievances or whatever, the government should pay attention to that. I think they should, especially local government or your representative, as we do live in a representative republic. We're not a democracy. So what we do is, obviously you can write your representatives and things like that. And I believe they should actually listen. And if a good portion of the constituency has a grievance, they should listen to that. Absolutely. Or they should be voted out. It's questionable. A lot of people don't believe that voting is actually working, so there's that. But theoretically, in theory, if they don't listen, then they should be voted out. Because, and the only thing that I have to say, as far as the No Kings protest, like I said, we'll probably talk about this more on the other channel. I'll have a much more concise analysis of this, but I think they're a little misled in the sense that they're focusing on Trump. There's a lot more people involved in whatever's going on than just Trump, for example. So just the focus on the president, who's not going to be there in 3 years, but the agenda is going to obviously continue. And the agenda is not a right-wing agenda or a left-wing agenda. It's the agenda. And that's what people need to kind of understand. On the other channel, I have some documentation that kind of shows that, and also have some examples of where this is actually the case, where the right and the left wing, sides of the government tend to kind of like work together. I think over time, if you look in long time spans and horizons over like 10, 20, 30 years, I think you'll see that the government in general, always kind of works towards a certain direction. And no matter who's in office or who's the president, right? So protesting against the president, you can do that. That's fine. I think there's a lot of other things that we should probably be paying attention to as well. Behind the scenes, not just the president, of course. There's a lobbyist. There's different groups that are in charge of making things happen, right? There's entire there's corporations that are behind a lot of the surveillance state, things like that. They're going to work with no matter who's in charge, right? They're going to work with, Democrat president, Republican president, all of this. A lot of the Congress members is still going to be there because they tend to get reelected over and over. There's people that have been in government for like 40 years. These are the type of things that I think, if you had grievances to bring attention to. Hopefully some of those conversations happened over the weekend. Hopefully some people had those conversations more than just pushing the attention towards, like the president, because the president doesn't have really that much power because indeed we do not have kings. In this country, this is not how things work. He'll push into certain agendas and try to push things, but he's going to find obviously that there's, court cases that come up from this. There's judges that have to make rulings on it. This is how it works, how the system works. That's why, we don't have a king. And we did away with the kings a long time ago. I don't think we're going to go back to that necessarily anytime soon. That's what our country did in its founding. Is the founding fathers basically founded what is the New World Order. We live in the New World Order now. The old World Order was kings and queens, but that got toppled. The late 1700s. We started doing that by saying, hey, we're not gonna have you guys, the kings and queens, rule over. We're gonna create this new thing. We created an example that was somewhat followed. Not long after that, you had the French Revolution. That didn't go exactly the same as our revolution did, because here they actually did a really good job of setting up what would be a republic in the future. With the French, it didn't work out so good. They ended up having eventually having an emperor, right? Like things, they needed a strong man to come in and fix the situation. We've actually managed for at least, 250 years or whatever, to not have the situation happen where we need this strong man to come in and become the leader, like an emperor or a king or anything like that. And so we've done really well at that as a country. That's one of the things we could say, but it's early. I was looking at it the other day, Roman, before they were an empire, Rome was a republic for about 500 years. And a lot of things started happening to make that not necessarily as much of a thing. And, over time, that became, they did become an empire. They had a lot of conflicts and things like that, and they had to start expanding, they had to start exerting strength, and then became an empire. And of course, the beginning of the end. It lasted a long time, but it didn't last forever. But we're only like 250 years in. Very short period of time compared to even the Roman Republic, which existed for about 500 years before things started to shift there. So it's very interesting. But we don't have kings. We haven't had kings for a long, obviously for this period of time. And I don't think we're going back to kings in the world. I think what we have to worry about more is technocracy. Obviously, there are big corporations that are providing the technology to make this happen. And of course, basically government officials who are also allowing it to happen. Even in small town I'm at here, and in your small town, you probably have AI cameras that are watching you all the time on the street. They're like street cameras, right? Traffic cameras. And what they do is there's a company, I can't remember the name of it. And if I remember in a minute, I'll look it up. I'll do a video on this on the Real Thoughts Project channel. I actually will, because it's worth looking into. But this AI company basically comes into town. They say, we'll put these cameras up free of charge. You don't have to pay for it. We'll do all the legwork. You get to use it as the police office in the town. You get to use the footage, the cameras or whatever. But also, they are aggregating this footage as well. So on a broader scale. I don't know the legalities of all that, but it's happening. And so that's the kind of thing you got to worry about more so. I mean, if those cameras were to get hacked, obviously people would have this footage of people driving down the street or whatever, which is public. It's public area is probably how they were able to get away with it. But it's just the beginning. I mean, I'm in a small town, small town in the South, I'm seeing these cameras pop up. I looked up the company and their AI aggregated cameras. So this is all going into, an AI database. And they allow the police department, local police departments, to use them for free as the incentive to let them put the cameras up. And I'm not sure who all in town had to do with this, but I have an idea of who all it was. As far as the positions, probably the mayor had something to do with it. Probably the police department had something to do with it. They probably had a meeting, but I don't think it was a public meeting. I could be wrong, but I don't remember hearing about a public meeting in town having to do with the AI cameras going up. I've heard of Fabian Society. That sounds familiar, Fever Dream. Let me look that up real quick just to get a little, see if I've ever heard of that. I know I've heard the term before, but I've never, I don't know. I couldn't tell you right now what all it is. Let's see here. Socialist organization whose purpose is to advance the principles of social democracy, democratic socialism via gradualist and reformist efforts. Oh wow, this is. I've been doing some research on this Fever Dream, but I didn't know. Okay, so maybe I've heard of this through that, but rather than revolutionary effort. Okay, yeah. So this is very interesting what you're saying here. Okay, yeah. Dude, I will cover this in detail on Real Thoughts Project. So stay tuned over there. Guys, if you're not supporting that channel, if you like freedom, definitely do so, because we're only just getting started over there. I have maybe 13, 14 videos, I don't know, up, and we're not even scratching the surface. I really need to be probably doing videos every day, but I'm very busy, right? I'm very busy doing other stuff, so not be able to do that. And also I want the videos to kind of cook a little bit, give them a chance to get out. I'm glad you brought that up, Fever Dream. But okay, so this is very deep, because that's the kind of things that are actually going on here, and ultimately, what's going to be the result of this thing? Well, it's going to be a socialist, kind of probably a dictatorship at some point in time, and a good topic, yeah. So I'm looking at it right now. I'm reading it a little bit as we're here, and I just kind of want to, yeah, I remember I read some H.G. Wells stuff, right? And I remember him being involved in some socialist stuff. Apparently he's involved in this. So this kind of draws some, it draws some strings together that I've been putting together, that I've had hanging on the board for a while anyway. I think that's why I've heard of this. I've probably seen it and read it. I've probably read this before, but oh, the ACL. Okay, I can't even talk about that. Yeah. So they're instrumental, essentially, in creating socialist kind of themes throughout society that run the undercurrent. Probably instrumental in the education system as well. It looks like they've had a lot to do with that. So I will be looking into this more so, and we'll by name, we will do this research on the other channel. I want to bring this out on the other channel. We'll talk about it. But yeah, so definitely going towards a socialist, a democratic socialist type situation. And it's not just my opinion. Now this I can speak to, that the democratic socialist movement or democratic socialist forms of government tend to lean towards communism eventually, and communism is not good, obviously. And I can say that it's obvious because we have case studies. We have literal case studies in society of how this has not worked out. I believe that you mentioned the other day, or maybe it was on one of my videos. I was on my Antifa video on Real Thoughts Project, and I said Antifa are useful idiots to bring in the the totalitarian regime. And so they are useful idiots for sure, no doubt about it. And you were saying that in Europe, you're seeing the same thing kind of happen with some agitators, like right-wing style agitators. So this would be the probably the people that start with the letter N and have a Z in there and end with the letter I, and those types. And so if that's the case, obviously that's what they're boogeymaning over there. So it's like they're doing that here with the left, even though there are real threats that come from that, just like there might be real threats that come from the other thing. These are very fringe. And so I made it a point in that video, to even differentiate the Antifa from even the Democratic Socialist of America, which is an organization here that probably had a lot to do with the No Kings protest, which, while I disagree with their premise, because they're talking about kings, and we don't have a problem with kings. This is the New World Order. We've moved past kings, and we're going to move into something else that is going to be totalitarian, most likely. However, I don't think kings is the problem, and I don't think that they want an individual leader like they did with the mustache man and stuff like that in the middle, because he tried that using a lot of socialist principles. Don't forget, the mustache man was a socialist. He was a socialist. And people will say, well, that's right wing, whatever, left wing versus right wing. No, it's so I think the left versus right thing is broken. It's not an exact science, and it's inaccurate in a lot of ways. What you have is freedom on one end, like absolute, like say anarchy on one end, and then you have like totalitarianism on the other end. And if anything, those two can kind of meet because one can bring in the other. Novus Ordo Seclorum or something kind of like that, right? But this left-right thing, it makes sense in some facets, like when we're talking about certain points of view on social issues and things like that. However, it's more, like freedom towards less freedom. And somewhere in the middle, you have a democratic representative republic like what we have here. And then if you move towards like straight up democracy can become mob rule really quick. And I used an analogy that I can't really use on the internet right now. But let's just say you have 7 people in a room, and the 6 people want to do bad things to one person. Or even let's do it this way. 5 people want to do very bad things to 2 of the people. Okay, this can be considered a democratic process. If they decide to do that and then follow through with those terrible things, use your imagination. The 5 follow through to do terrible things to the 2 people. This is democracy. This is what pure democracy is. And so, when you hear the socialist or the left wing, the far left wing people out there chanting in the streets, this is what democracy looks like. Yeah, that's because they're willing to gang together, and if they could, they would beat up those guys that they consider to be the bad guys, which like right now they're talking about like ICE agents and things like that. But if they could, they would gang up and beat them up, because say there was 7 of them and 2 of the other people, and they're all in a room together, or 7 total, 5 and 2, democracy would be the 5 people wanting to beat up the 2 people or do terrible things to the 2 people. As terrible as you can imagine that could happen, 5 decide to do that to the 2. This is democracy. That's what pure democracy is. So it's why we're not a democracy in this country, and we're a republic, a representative republic, for that reason. And it's very important. Now, we got some people in the house here. We'll get back to this in a little bit. Kendra, how are you doing? Welcome in. I hope you're doing well. I'm glad you're here. Frog, I will address that in just a second. You had a Civil War question. Been listening, eating French toast instead of chatting. I appreciate you being here, Dan, Handicap. Everybody's saying hello to each other. All right, perfect. So, Frog, I will. If you might find this interesting. I don't know if you're subscribed to my other channel, Frog, Real Thoughts Project. You definitely want to go subscribe to that if you're interested in this question. We're going to be talking more about this over there. Like the things I was saying about Antifa are things that I've discussed in my last video over there. I'm kind of trying to move this content that we're doing right now to over there, but we're here right now. So you had the question: do I think we're on the brink of a civil war? Not traditionally, not in a traditional sense, but I don't know. Who knows, right? We don't really know. Do I think we're being pushed towards a civil conflict? Probably. But I don't know that it's going to be like the mid 1800s type thing. I don't think that's exactly where we're going. I think it's more. So I'm not trying to be pessimistic, but this is going to, know both sides, and people will be surprised at me. That's why I say, like, I support the right of the No Kings protest to protest. Because I think they should if they feel there's a threat to freedom, because whether they're wrong or right about the source of it, or, they're kind of mistaking on the fact that it's not just a president you have to worry about. There's a lot of things behind. There's a big machine going on, and no matter who's the president, that machine's going to march forward. I think they're missing that point. I think a lot of those people are MSNBC watchers and things like that. There's a certain age group I noticed. But I think they mean well. I'd love to have the conversation with them if I had the time. I don't think we're going to. I think most people are so tired and working that the people are not going to be doing civil war like that. I don't think it's going to work like that. But we'll see civil conflicts potentially. You have, for example, certain governors that have said that if the National Guard comes in, then we're gonna from another state, then our National Guard is going to repel them. We're not going to work with them, right? That kind of thing. Most of this stuff should just be cleared up in the courts. I don't think we're going to see too much with that, but maybe. That's why I wasn't really a fan of when Trump says he wants to put the National Guard in, I totally get it and I totally understand, and in some ways it's probably justified. But at the same time, if you look back at like Kent State, for example, and I don't know how old you guys are. I wasn't old enough to remember it, but I know history. I mean, I've tried to study history as much as I can, so I have an understanding of what's happening. And when the National Guard was deployed to Kent State, what resulted from that was not very good. I think there were 4 like fatal casualties, and there was a lot of other casualties as far as injuries and things like that, things that happened, and. So, I'm not a fan. I'm not a fan necessarily of deploying them. Now, then you have the LA riots. I mean, I don't know. Might have been necessary. You know what I mean? To bring back some kind of order there. Obviously, had Katrina, things like that. Now, there's a lot of stories about how that might not have been the best thing. I don't know if you had too many options. So this is. Yeah, we're at a weird place, but I don't know if we're at the craziest place we've ever been before in life. You know what I mean? In the history of our country, I don't think we're in the craziest place we've ever been before, or anything like that. It's still discussed a lot where you're at Kent State, yeah. And so this would be the thing that I'd be worried about, is something like a Kent State happening, or the opposite. Think about it this way: one of the protesters decides, not protesters, but one of the agitators, like I was talking about, the useful idiots, the Antifa type of person, probably doesn't represent most of the protesters. Most of the people, misguided as they may be, probably mean well. They think they're fighting for freedom, I think. But the far left, or the agitators, they want to shut people up. They don't want to fight for freedom. So you have that going on. But say you have one of those individuals who might be an American citizen, right? Of course. And they attack, a National Guard member. Now you have a big issue, right? You have an issue because now they have to retaliate, or they have to deal with the situation. Could get out of hand. I think it's better to leave this up to the police. You know what I mean? Now I'll discuss this a little bit more in detail, obviously, over on that video on Antifa and how I think that might work. But yeah, those fringe groups are allowed to operate. I don't even think you need to designate them as terrorists. You just need to, like, when they break a law or whatever, you just need to go and prosecute the crime, right? So that's what I was saying about Antifa. When they do, I have video. I mean, like, you can't tell me that they don't do things that are violent or whatever. I've had somebody try to tell me that. I was like, dude, I'm not saying this is Democrats. I'm not saying that. I'm saying that this particular group, I've literally seen them, throw rocks through windows and try to hurt people and throw firebombs and I don't even know if I should say that, but you get what I'm saying, and doing all kinds of other stuff that I'm not going to list out here today. And I've seen them playing it, in the background and all this stuff on live streams. Is it the rule? No, it's an exception. It's not something that's happening a lot. But here's the deal: police departments go in. When this happens, you got to chase that dude down, or girl or guy or whatever they think they are, and you got to chase them down, and you gotta just actually arrest them. If the mayor is not allowing that, or saying not to do that, or the governor is saying not to do that, or the police chief is saying not to do that, I think that, if the federal government wanted to try to charge somebody or bring in more heavy-handed situation there, they should focus on that leadership that's not allowing, law enforcement, for example, to just take care of the problem at the source, right, when it's happening. Because if you did that, you see that in certain cities like that aren't run by Democrats, for example, there are this happens less. It happens less because the police departments in those cities will actually just deal with the crime. They'll arrest them, and the judges there will prosecute the offenders or whatever. And it's not good, so it's not very friendly for them to do that. Therefore, it doesn't happen. You see how it just doesn't happen, and it's like magic. So it's like, I don't think you need to send in the guard. I think you need to, but there may be some level of holding to account the people that are in charge. I don't know if that's a federal issue or if that's an issue that people in the states are going to have to deal with, or if they want their cities to be like, have these people running around doing crazy stuff. They might have to live with that as a result of who they elected, and this may be something that, it's a tough situation. But I don't know if sending in, putting guard troops in the mix. I don't know if that's the answer. And I get where, look, if you watched enough videos on this stuff, you would start to think, yeah, dude, send in the guard. But it's not. I think that's the idea. They want people to think that way to support this, because this is just the primer for what could happen. Don't forget, if the president now, you may agree with the president now, but he won't be the president in 3 years. You have, 3.5 years, let's say, however long it's been. So it'll be another president, might be another president, another party. Maybe you don't agree with them. Maybe you are the one that they deem to be the terrorist. You get what I'm saying? So this could be, it's a tricky ground when you start talking about terrorists. American citizens being terrorists. It's like, I would much rather you just go ahead and prosecute the crimes, and let's deal with it that way, see what happens. If they keep going and keep going and keep going, then there's another way of doing this, right? Because then once you also designate them to terrorists, you've got to back it up. Which I think they have. I think there was a group of guys that were Antifa or whatever that were shooting at ICE agents, and I think they did wrap them up. It was about 10 or 6, 7, 8 of them or something like that, and they did. And I think they're going to be charged with terrorism. And we all know the federal government has a very high rate of conviction. So most likely they'll do some time. See where we're at in the chat here. Everybody was saying, hey, still discussed there. Yeah, Kent State, right? Remember when there were BLM protests everywhere and people were saying that somebody left a giant stack of bricks somewhere? Did you ever hear that conspiracy? So yeah, and I've seen that. I've actually seen video of the stacks of bricks. Okay, so BLM, there was a lot of things going on at that time as well. So you had BLM, you had Antifa kind of crashing the party as well. And then you had, obviously, this whipped people up into a frenzy. I think a lot of other people got involved. But I think that BLM as an organization was nefarious. I'm just going to go ahead and say that. I don't think that they, I don't know if nefarious is the word. Maybe they just wanted money for the organization itself. A lot of people that came out probably were true believers as far as in the cause or whatever. Not realizing that that's very exclusionary, even though you're trying to be inclusive, it's exclusionary too. Just like the postmodernist would say, people like Foucault would call that exclusionary, but he probably wouldn't because of what it is, right? Of course. But yeah, technically speaking, it's kind of a lapse in logic to do what they were doing. But that being said, that's that aside. Were they funded by Soros? Is that kind of happening? I think BLM was funded. I think people funded BLM. I think they had a lot of places where you could go and donate. And I think a lot of people actually did. So they kind of bought the Kool-Aid or drank the Kool-Aid or whatever, actually donated to them, not realizing this would end up being like violent protest. Several people lost their lives in those protests. And so it wasn't good. Same thing when Antifa took over Chop during the same period of time, actually got kicked off by BLM. I think Antifa just, in their cities, places like Seattle, places like Portland, all those places. You had Antifa in charge of security, right? And they actually they took a couple young people out who happen to be black people. It's kind of crazy how that works. And yeah, so I remember seeing that on a live stream, guys. No joke. I remember seeing on a live stream from Chaz, and if you don't know what I'm talking about, look that up. They called it CHOP. They also called it Chaz, and it was this zone that I think the mayor of the city there, I think it was in Seattle, wasn't it? Correct me if I'm wrong. Let me know if I was right. It is Seattle. But the mayor basically allowed the Antifa to kind of control a block, I guess a city block or two. And I remember seeing on the live stream when those boys got taken out because they were just driving through, just interested. They were young, maybe teenagers, and they were driving through and just interested to see what was going on. They wanted to come down there and see what was going on. And they were probably pro whatever was going on, actually. And but somebody started agitating them. I think they tried to speed off, and the Antifa security, discharged a weapon, and two of them ended up dead. And I don't know if they ever found out who it is, but I remember watching on a live stream everybody going around and picking up the casings, literally covering up this crime. And so it was wild, guys. And I remember that. I wish I had like clips of that. And as soon as I get my OBS studio and stuff set up, I'll be able to actually show some of that type of stuff. But yeah, guys, I mean, I've seen some wild stuff because I'm the kind of person that observes when these things happen. But the BRICS, is it Soros funded? I don't know. I don't think Antifa's Soros funded. And the reason I think that is because Antifa themselves, they have like trash cans for shields. They probably steal those things. They send out flyers and stuff like that they print off their own computers and stuff like that, or maybe even computers at work. Some people say so. They don't seem very well funded to me. Those gas masks, I actually have some of those gas mask cartridges that I found today sourcing, and I can't sell those for more than $15 because the Chinese market has flooded the market with these gas mask filters and stuff. So the stuff that you see them wearing, it's not very expensive. And they're not coming out with like heavy weapons and stuff like that. They probably have some melee stuff. So yeah, no, I don't think that Antifa is necessarily Soros funded, but could bigger entities come in and drop some bricks there? Absolutely. I don't doubt it. And I actually think that happened during the BLM riots because look at all the broken windows. We had broken windows in a city nearby me, and it's a pretty, quiet city, not a lot going on. And they have broken windows in their downtown. So it came out almost everywhere. And, we're in this state, usually don't want to mess around out here, right? People like that. But they did. And so, there was a lot of broken windows, a lot of businesses burned to the ground. I believe they took over a police precinct, right? A lot of things happened. So it was terrible. So this thing of, left-wing extremism or whatever, violence doesn't exist. It does exist. To take and like paint every Democrat as if they're like that, I think would be ridiculous. Of course, they're not like that. Every person who votes Democrat, just like every person who votes for Trump doesn't, probably didn't think about Palantir being in charge of everything that they're going to be getting in charge of, as far as aggregating AI information on everybody, surveillance state, all this stuff. They probably thought he was actually going to end the war in Ukraine instead of sending them new weapons. Can I say this stuff? I'm probably going to get knocked off of the internet, guys. They're probably, a lot of things they probably didn't think were going to happen. And, they are happening. And so I would think a lot of people that voted for Trump probably disagree with many of these things that are happening today. So this is why I say, it's not to say that I completely disagree with some of the things that these people said this weekend at No Kings rallies and stuff. I think they're misguided in a lot of the ways that they think about this, and they're looking at just one person. And we don't live in a system where one person has the say like that anymore. That was part of the whole New World Order thing, guys. It changed. And so we don't have kings anymore. That's not even the threat. The threat is the technocracy. All right, I'll read the chat. Let's see. Have you ever thought of running for any political positions? Absolutely not, Kendra. Absolutely not. I don't think I'm going to do that. I don't know. I see so many political, even here in the small towns that surround me, I see the mayors, I see all the different stuff, and I see the corruption that goes on. I'm not calling anybody out here, guys. I mean, if you're watching and from where I live, I'm not saying like specific, I'm not naming names in this video or anything. I'm just saying that like there's a town near where I live. I live out in the country. We have well water, but there's a town near where I live who cannot for the life of them get the water to be clean. And they have like cancer rates that are accelerated in this area, and they believe it's because of the water treatment facility or like whatever's going on with the water, the source of the water. It's not being treated properly, or it's the pipes or something, right? And they can't get it right, but for the life of them, but they continue to build new subdivisions constantly in this area, inviting people to come out from the city to live out here. And a lot of people don't like it, of course, because it's a small town, quiet town, and they don't like all the people moving in. But at the same time, people are having problems with their water. I've thought about doing videos on this before, but then it would blow up my area. I'm not sure exactly, but there's a situation. I'm trying to let the locals work it out, obviously. And but should I cover it? Maybe, because it's a thing that gets very heated at the town hall in this particular town, and they can't even get that right. And I believe the whole deal was probably because they saved money by going with another water treatment program rather than building their own or maintaining their own water treatment program that existed, which would have to have been updated. Instead of doing that, they got rid of that and they went with the other one, and it's not so good. So that being said, running for office, I'm not so sure, because I don't know, man. What happens to these people when they go and they get corrupted? You know what I mean? Like, it just seems like everybody's got some kind of issue. And I definitely don't want to be the president, for example. Like something like that, I wouldn't want to be. Not that I could be, because you have to have billions of dollars to do that. I'm sure this video is demonetized by now, probably. John, okay. Cheap, available everywhere. That's so it's easy to hide. What are you talking about there, Fever? Cheap and available everywhere. That's so it's easy to hide. Yeah, so Antifa probably funded like by each other, probably funded by some rich people that may agree with what they're doing, or may have some skin in the game as far as that goes. But also they sell books. They have there's these radical bookstores. There's a couple near me, and they're the ones with the rainbow flags and all the stuff in the window, but they have all this other stuff, and they have anarchist books and things like that. But these are hangouts, okay, guys. I'm gonna get in trouble here probably, but these are hangouts for Antifa, and they're places in the pipeline for people to get radicalized. And so a lot of people that just vote Democrat will end up in these stores, but maybe they have a conversation with somebody, or maybe they're directed to read a certain book or buy a certain book. Some of the money that individual makes on that book may end up finding its way back into Antifa, in my opinion. I can't prove any of this. I can prove some of it. I can't prove most of it definitively. There are also websites like that are in the pipeline. Yeah, but most of those guys look like they're kind of broke, and they look like they don't really have a lot of money. Maybe they're doing some substances and stuff. They look like they got some issues, man, and they don't look very well funded or organized. There is some organization, though. Don't be fooled. I said that in that video that they are decentralized and they act like they're not organized, but that's on purpose. There is a level of organization for sure, no doubt about it. I've been directed to certain websites that show this. It's pretty obvious what's going on. But it's not obvious in the sense that some of the websites are a bit cryptic, and you almost have to know how to use and operate the website. And I don't, because I'm not an insider. I don't know what the heck they're doing. But yeah, what they're doing, obviously, they're never going to be in charge of anything. These people will, even if they, were to be able to take over this or that, somebody would rise up and take that right away from them immediately, and they wouldn't ever be in charge of anything. So. Yeah. So this conversation got wild quick. If you're interested in this conversation and you're still listening, you should definitely go subscribe to the Real Thoughts Project, where we're going to talk about more stuff like this. And I'll try to bring you some resources so that you can do your own research as well. But that's what I always encourage everybody to do, is your own research. But yeah, I would probably never run for office. I don't want to say never, but I just don't understand. I don't think so. I would rather, not that I probably wouldn't get elected, first of all. You know, it seems like the way things are going right now, I'd probably get attacked pretty heavily with some of the things that I have to say, my history of things that I've said, and the future history of things that I'm probably going to say if I'm allowed to, you know, walk the face of the planet long enough. I think that, yeah. So, because I've had people say that they were glad, you know, the Charlie Kirk people that want, you know, were glad that he passed or whatever, and they said that they would be glad if I did too, if I had a bigger reach, and so that tells me that if I had a bigger reach, they would be wanting for me to be out of the game. They would want me no longer to be on the face of the planet. And that's kind of sketchy, dude. You know, for somebody that you know personally to tell you that is kind of sketchy. And it's like, man, well, what if I can, what, you know, that'd be crazy. So if my other channel, for example, blew up and some of the things that I've said over there, so you're telling me that in that case, that you'd be happy if I wasn't alive anymore. That's interesting. That's very, very telling. Hi, Susan. How you doing? Welcome to the house. We got a serious conversation over here. Sorry about just jumping into this right now. It's probably going to be kind of wild, but I'm glad you're here and I appreciate you being here. Have I looked into Rumble yet? You say. Still need to decide if I want to reactivate the account. Yeah, I've looked into Rumble. You know, I actually had a Rumble set up for. I've had a Rumble set up for Driving Daily for a while now, and I think I have a couple videos over there, actually. I think it's like Driving Daily 919. I can't remember what I named it. Might just be Driving Daily. I don't even remember, because I only had 2 videos up, and I was just playing around with it. And I didn't know, you know, you can take your YouTube videos and you can put them on Rumble, or you can, there's a lot of things that you can do with Rumble, and I didn't understand how it all worked. And they're like, do you want the rights, or do you want like us to have the rights and all this stuff? So I think you have to do, if you do certain way, do it a certain way, you have to do Rumble exclusive videos, I think. But I don't know. I didn't like how it wasn't very clear cut, the legalities of it all. But I did upload a couple videos over there. I know you can live stream over there, and I've thought about doing it. And if I keep going, I probably will have to, won't I? So maybe I should look into that. You know, I thought about making a website also and making videos available on the website, and directing people to the website, but at some point in time, maybe, because I think that's something that people are going to end up having to do eventually. Yeah, Susan, sorry. You walked into not a hornet's nest. No, we were just talking about some things. I was talking about some things that some people who are very politically charged were telling me in my personal life, and it was kind of concerning. It was kind of scary stuff. But yeah, no, it's all good. We're all good here. We're all good here for now. So, but yeah, we did get into some heavy topics here just recently. We were talking about, yeah, somebody was asking about Civil War. Somebody was asking about all kinds of things. Of course, I'm here in America. Susan's from Australia. And so I don't know what's going on over there. But yeah. Well, I'm not scared, Susan. Obviously, I'm not worried about it. But it's just some of the things, some of the sentiments that some people have in my country. There's a lot of people that are like, have gotten to a point where they're a little bit brainwashed, and so they're a little bit extreme in their beliefs. And some of the people that I know personally have gotten this way, and so it's become kind of interesting because they don't believe what I believe or whatever. And I believe generally in freedom. So. I honestly don't care what another person believes as far as social issues and things like that for the most part. As long as we have the freedom to believe those things, you know, that's generally my goal, or generally what I would like to promote, is for us to recognize what freedom is and go for that. And if you have it, hold on to it. And if you, you know, as long as it's not somebody that's hurting somebody else, that's the thing. And so if you're, you know, like guys, we were talking about the Antifa people, they like to shut people up. And this was the conversation this person had with me. They would like for me not to be able to say the things that I was saying and have a bigger audience, right? And so they would like for me to be shut up. Well, that's not freedom of speech. They don't believe in freedom. And so this is, you know, this is where it gets a little dicey. when people are trying to shut each other up, right? Or you can't say this and say this. And then, here's the thing about freedom of speech, guys. Sometimes we're going to have to put up, and if you want to have freedom, you're going to have to put up with, there's going to be people that are going to say things that are maybe terrible even. As long as they're not hurting anybody, they're going to have to be free to do that. If they go to hurt somebody or you go to shut somebody else's freedom down, well, now you've become the tyrant or you've become the authoritarian, and you're the problem, of course, to freedom. So, yeah, I mean, it's very simple, really. Everybody can, you can believe what you want. You can say what you believe. You can live, for the most part, how you live, as long as you don't hurt other people. I may not agree with it, or you may not agree with me, but in a free country, we're allowed to do that. And that's how it goes. The minute you start saying, well, you can't say this because it offends me, or you can't do this because I don't like it, well, now you're starting to, and if that thing that person's doing or saying isn't hurting anybody, well, now you're starting to infringe on somebody else's freedom, right? You can't do that. Oh, we have governments do that all the time. They want to say you can't do this and you can't do that. Well, that's infringing on people's freedom. So anyway, whatever. My take is generally freedom based. There's things I believe that, there are people who say, well, that is an attack on freedom, right? Well, I'm not going to get into that in this video, I think, because we'll just leave it. I don't want to get the temperature too ramped up here, but there's things that I believe, obviously, that some people would be like, well, that's an infringement of freedom. And I'd say, well, that's, hurting somebody. So, and they would say, well, that's not hurting anybody. You get what I'm saying? So this is, it's good. I'll cover this on Real Thoughts Project where I'll say things that, because I don't care, I'm not trying to, but right now I'm not trying to like bring the temperature any higher than it already is. It's hard in this situation. Because that more extreme people think that words are literal violence. So to them, you are hurting people by your words. Yeah, it's absolutely crazy. Yeah. So this all started with this postmodernist idea that words don't have meaning except for what the person who hears the word believes they mean or feel they mean. So if I say to you, you look lovely today, then, and if you say to me, I take offense from that, what you said was offensive. And then the government says, well, you can't be offensive, so you can't say people look lovely today. Or the word lovely is, you got to ban that because somebody believes that's offensive, right? And so this meaning of words, in this postmodernist ideology, which has pervaded college campuses and things like, so they teach this stuff in college. I'm not going to say I 100% disagree with every single thing that all of the postmodernist people said. Like people like Baudrillard, like he had like some very interesting takes on on media, on the simulation and simulacra. I don't agree with everything in that book, but the idea that everything is a simulation, everything eventually in media will become a simulation of the real. And that nothing is based on real if everything is based on actual simulation in the beginning. This is a very interesting concept, and I understand it. And I mean, I get some of it, and I agree with some of it. But this thing of, because he was a Marxist to begin with, and then he started to differ with the Marxists because the Marxist ideology is very, very materialistic, all about the means of production and all this stuff, right? We got to take over the means of production, blah, 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 blah. And Baudrillard just said that, like, if you do that with media, then it becomes Marxist media. And so then it's still a tool of the state, or it becomes this, like, still copying an idea from another idea, whatever. And so I don't agree with most of his ideology. I don't agree with most of what Foucault said. I think I was a creep in real life, right? But those ideas have pervaded college campuses and things like that. Now, I'm not college educated, but I read some of these guys' stuff because I thought it was interesting, and I thought it was I saw that it was part of what is being pushed now. You can't get to this point now, like Kendra was saying, where the words are literal violence unless you suspend the understanding of the objective meaning of a word, or the objective, let's say, use of what words are versus what violence is. Well, I think words are violence. Okay, so your opinion matters because we can't be exclusive, Foucault. Then we have to change now this definition of this word, because that's what you know. And so now we can't use this word and we can't use that word, and we have to have a safe space for everybody so that everybody's happy. Well, the problem is now you're becoming authoritarian in another way. You know, a lot of these viewpoints from those people came back from then, and the mid-century 1900s was a viewpoint that governments were being authoritarian, in one way or another. And a lot of them, again, a lot of these guys are anti-Christian. They believe Christianity is authoritarian. But see, this is the thing about America, is where in America, we're not a Christian country. I mean, whether people like it or not, we're not a Christian country. We weren't founded a Christian country. So it's just not how it works. We're allowed to be Christians. When our country was formed, most of the people that lived in the country were Christians. So we had values that we agreed with, and this allowed us not to have a lot of the problems that we're having now. Benjamin Franklin, when he came out of, when all this thing started or whatever, and he came out and he said, you have a republic if you can keep it. I think he knew that eventually, with clashing ideologies, people probably would not be able to keep it. But for how long of a time span, I don't know if they actually knew how it would be. Now, 250 years, something like that, or 200, yeah. So 250 years-ish. But we've had this republic that we've had here. But if you have a lot of people that are, like I said, now you can't even agree on objective reality or things like that, you do have issues. You will have issues. And they'll use the free speech to undermine everything that's been built. But yeah, we're not a Christian nation, we're a free country. The idea was that you're a free country, so that you can be a Christian, you can be a Muslim, you can be an atheist, you can be all these things. You can only be those things in a free country. Think about if you're a Christian country, which denomination would it be? Which denomination? There's hundreds of denominations, I'm a Christian, but there's hundreds of denominations. I had conversations with other Christians before, and it almost got heated because we don't look at this verse this way, or whatever. Okay, I don't have those conversations as much anymore. You get what I'm saying? So that's why freedom is the ultimate goal, because then we're able to be who we need to be. If your religion ends up getting to the point where you're violent or you're hurting other people, then that can be taken care of simply because you're breaking a law. You see, so if murder is against the law and you have a religion that pushes forward murder, well, then that's against the law and it will be taken care of that way. Let me catch up with the chat here. I know I'm saying some crazy stuff here, guys. I know that. And this is the kind of thing that we talk about. I need to do a live stream over there on the other channel, because this is technically what that's supposed to be. I can't help myself, guys, because I love freedom. Let's see where it is. It's hard in the situation. Okay, yeah, I read that. 1940s vibes. Yes, there are some 1940s vibes. Well, actually 1930s vibes. Fever Dream. We'll talk about that in a minute. Loved your last video on the other channel, by the way. I think I forgot to leave a comment as usual. It's okay, Kendra. It's subjective. High Country Homestead says, well, it is subjective. So certain things are subjective, but certain things have to be objective. If we can't agree that they're objective, then we'll never be able to agree. Of course, this is how conflict occurs. People are too soft. Just kidding, sort of. No, I think people are too soft, Kendra. I know you say you're kidding. I agree with you. I think people are too soft, because we used to have this thing when I was growing up, and they said sticks and stones can hurt my bones or whatever, but words can't hurt me or whatever. And this should be the case, because so technically, if you call me an idiot, right? Now sometimes I'm a little slow, but I don't think I'm an idiot, so it's not going to really bother me, right? I don't think I'm the genius either. So if you call me a genius, I'm going to be like, no, you're just trying to say some things. If you say that you shouldn't have stole that thing last Friday night, why did you steal that thing from that person? that's not going to really bother me because I didn't steal anything from anybody last Friday night. You see what I'm saying? So the word's not going to bother me because I know where I'm at and who I am, and so I should be able to hold on to that. And I've had some people on the internet say some crazy things about me, and I don't let it really bother me because I kind of know what I'm. Maybe I think, okay, maybe my point didn't get across perfectly, but yeah, I mean, it doesn't really hurt me, to hear that. My husband is so sure that all of this started getting extreme when participation trophies started getting handed out. Too many don't know how to handle loss, defeat, mean words. That's true. He's probably not wrong. Dan says, I think the way people say something, it can take on different meanings. Well, that's absolutely true. So, I mean, if you mean it to be mean, then you can definitely put a tone into it. That's true, Dan. I mean, for sure. So I won't discredit that. Frog says, back in biblical times, people would get stoned for saying the wrong thing. Glad that's not the case anymore. And that's right, Frog. We shouldn't take for granted the fact that we're in our country. We could say a lot of stuff. You don't get stoned for it. You can say stuff and then go get stoned, but you're not going to get stoned for saying things, right? Okay? That's how free our country is. And it's maybe not as free as it has been in the past. And I think we always need to guard freedom as we move forward into a situation in which probably we're going to have less and less freedom and less privacy as time goes on. I do believe that's happening, and I do believe we need to guard the freedom. However, I think we need to recognize when we do have some freedom and actually, use it, which is why I don't have a problem with the No Kings protest, even if I disagree with some of the things that they say. If they're pro-freedom, I'm pro that as well. It's just like a lot of the Antifa people. It's like, we're anti-fascist and you're a fascist. And it's like, well, I'm anti-fascist too. I'm against fascism as well. But, I'm not Antifa, right? So we're not the same. But I support your freedom to say whatever you want to say as long as you're, being peaceful. True, Dan, our tones can go a long way. Some people also just take things negatively too. If someone is looking for offense, they will find it in anything. What's that called? I think there's a name. I don't know. I'll think about that. Maybe somebody answered in the chat. Confirmation bias. Yeah, confirmation bias is real. If you go to look for something, if you want to look at why somebody like, say, Trump is a dictator, if you believe that, if you want to look for that, you will find 1,000 things to confirm your belief. If you want to look for, the fact that Trump is a great man, you will find 1,000 things to confirm your belief. The truth is always a little bit, there's a lot of nuance, right? We would like to think that the world is, it's the mustache man or, some other peaceful person. What's the most peaceful person in the world, right? It's either this guy or that guy, but it's not always that way. There's a lot of nuance there. There's always going to be a lot of different things. People in power can be very corrupt, and they could still have a moment when they're walking down the street and say, look, I want to help that homeless person right there. And they could genuinely mean it, while they're literally taking over the world, a traitor to the United States, and all this other stuff at the same time. There's a lot of different aspects to life, and the reality of being a human being is a very interesting reality. And it can be chopped up to just like, this is a bad guy and this is a good guy all the time. Now, I can definitely show you, and I will on Real Thoughts Project, where things are happening that I think are nefarious. And over time, they've been nefarious. Fever Dream mentioned Thabian Society. We'll talk about that. But in general, you can't just sit there and point at a person and say, I'm going to judge that person. That person's evil. I'm good. That person's evil. And that's the end of the story. Because it's not that way. I know a lot of people in my personal life that are, broke or whatever. And they would easily, if they had the power that a lot of politicians do, or people in positions of, whatever influence, if they had that influence, they would absolutely help their friends out, for example. They would do it. They would get their friends out of prison. They would, you know what I'm saying? They would pardon people that they know. They absolutely would take deals. They would take money from lobbyists. Okay? They might not know that or might not have thought that out. Not all of them will. I'm not saying everybody will. You guys said, talk about like, would you run for office? I don't know. I don't think so. There's a lot of temptations in that whole world, in that reality. And we don't really know how to gauge that unless we've been involved in that world. And so, I've been, like I said, I grew up around people in the trailer parks, and I also grew up around people at the same time earlier that day with an individual who grew up with a house that has elevators and a theater. And so I have a little bit of an understanding on the human condition here with that. And I've seen imperfections in both, and I've seen good aspects of people in both of those situations and those environments. I'll catch up with the chat. Confirmation bias, yeah. Might not have used the words right there, but you guys know what I mean. No, I know what you're saying, Kendra. You're absolutely correct. No, you can find those. I think that's what I was just talking about. You can find it anywhere. Understanding of religions helps the art and symbolism at time. That's true, Fever Dream. As somebody who animates, you would know that. I love you, XO. XO says, me once shame. Hey, me once shame. Hurt me twice, shame. Are you trying to do the George Bush, fool me, can't get fooled again? Is that, there's a saying where I come from. It's, fool me once. Shame on you. It says, fool me, can't get fooled again. He forgot about how to say it, and he was just like, screw it. I'm the president. I'm just going to say it. That dude was hilarious sometimes. It's like his mind would just like blank out, and he would just be like, shit, I'm on stage, and I'm the president. I'm just going to say it. And then he would remember, and he'd just laugh, and he'd be like, I'm just going to say it. I was very against George Bush and the wars and stuff, by the way, too, back then. I was too young to like really be involved, but I wasn't, by the way, I'm just saying that. I've pretty much been, I could probably find something, all the presidents pretty much. I've seen it, and I've been like, dang, dude, he's corrupt too. So it's like, man, so my thing is always fight for freedom, because you can fight for a person. You can say that, I'll support this person's going to do this. That person's fallible. You could say, John, I want you to run. I've had people talk to me about running for, and I don't know why. I don't know why anybody would think that I'm not blaming you guys for saying that. I'm just saying people have said that before, and I don't think I'm the material to run for office, for example. But like, I'm corruptible too, I guess. Like, I'm not saying that. I'm not. That's a soundbite that I know the internet could probably take out of context. But what I'm saying is, everybody has like weaknesses, or everybody has some position where it's like something they believe in a lot that could get the best of them. Like, we can help all these people over here if you just do this one thing. Like, we know that you have this cause that you really have near and dear to your heart. We can help these people. We just need you to do this over here, right? And so a lot of this stuff might even come about like that. I'm catching up with the chat. It's taken me a long time. Words can hurt, especially if someone you love. Well, when it's somebody you love, Dan, I will say this: words can hurt. That's true. Stranger says that it's different, and I think we're mostly talking in the context of strangers. Desert Living, how you doing? Welcome to the live stream. I hope you're doing well. Desert Living's got some interesting takes as well. Hello, everyone in the chat. Y'all are saying hello. That's great. I'm glad you guys are saying hello to each other. And that's an old saying we have. We live in Texas, by the way. Yeah, you're talking about George Bush. Oh man, old W. Can't type today, Desert Living said. Oh yeah. Susan says, AI has really changed things, though. A lot of fake stuff out there, and it gets people really worked up because they don't understand it's fake. That's true. My wife and I were talking about this just today, about the AI and, some of the stuff that's a little bit fake, and some of it comes up on Facebook or whatever, and people might see that and they pass that along as if it's true. Now, you have to do your research, guys. You've got to be able to. I think one of the most important things, if you're going to look and study and follow politics and things like that, or anything like that, I'm not just talking about politics, but, anything really, it's important to learn to do a bit of your own research. And I don't even know if in college they really stress this enough. A lot of times you're sitting in college, you're listening to a professor. I never went to college. I took some courses at community college, and I said, I'm out. I wanted to go. I went and did some crazy stuff, right? But I got experiences from that too. But what I'm saying is a lot of times, the professor's telling you what to think rather than how to think, right? When they're teaching you about postmodernism, they're not teaching you how do you analyze what these postmodernists are saying and where they might be coming from. Could it be that Foucault, because of his proclivities that might have something to do with the way that he's teaching postmodernism, right? That some of the things that he has going on in his personal life as a deviant, right, may have something to do with his philosophy on life. Of course it does, because he's a human. So if you don't teach that and you just simply teach Foucault like this, the powers that be are always like basically authoritarian, and they're exclusionary, and so they're only going to be favorable to certain groups of people. Well, that sounds like it makes a lot of sense, because it kind of does in a way, right? But then you look deeper into it and you start to see, okay, there might be some other motives going on here in this whole philosophy, and nobody can really separate their philosophy from their experience in their life fully. And I think if you start to research, you see that, you see that. And so you can't just take things at face value. This is the problem with like memes and some of the AI stuff you're talking about. Because memes, a picture's worth 1,000 words for sure, but it could be wrong. And it discredits that nuance that we were talking about earlier. As far as people, there's a lot of aspects to people out there. Okay, so you're talking about the impressions. You're going to hear impressions tonight. I think I'm going to just save it at George W. And that wasn't a very much of an impression. I just kind of said what he said. I have to try harder to do the impression. I don't know if we're going to do that. We'll see. I'll just leave you hanging on that. I always leave you hanging. You miss the impressions. I'm not singing. I'm not going to sing today. Let's see here. If I sing and one of my channels blows up, the whole internet's going to go back and find that dang clip, and they're going to put that everywhere. You know what I'm saying? I can't do that to myself in the future. My future self, got to look out for what if I do run for office, ladies and gentlemen. What am I going to do if I have this clip of me singing? It's just going to be all over the news in my local area, wherever I'm running. No, I'm not running for office there, guys. I don't want to say never, because you never know, but I'm not going to. I don't think I'm material for that. Because you are very fluent when you speak. I hope you're not talking about me. You have a gift to get your message out in a great way. Well, I mean, I hope that the message comes across. That's what I want to happen, because I think it can help people. Because I believe in freedom, and I think that the important thing is that we understand that there's things going on all sides, and it's not. Like with the No Kings protest, it's Trump, it's Trump, it's Trump. Okay, guys, I'm going to give you an example that I gave on my last video, but I'm going to expound on Real Thoughts Project, but I'm going to expound upon it a little bit. Think of this, okay? Because no matter where you sit on the aisle, left or right, this can apply, and you can understand this, how the left-right paradigm works. You had Trump in office talking about a wall, right? So then you had people, because they simply didn't like Trump, or they were made not to like Trump with the propaganda. He hadn't done a thing yet as president, but he wants a wall. Okay, you have the left-wing outlets of the propaganda starts firing up, because there's right-wing and left-wing propaganda. So left-wing ones fire up. He wants a wall. He hates immigrants. He hates this, that, and the other. These people, because of their skin color, different things. He's a bad person. The wall's bad. All right, now fast forward. Democrats in office, Biden, Kamala Harris, Joe Biden, whatever. Whoever's behind them, that's who's really doing it, with Trump and them. But let's just say this. They allow millions of people to come across the border like never before, unimpeded. They actually encourage it. They make these apps where people can come across the border. And now they flooded the country, literally flooded the country, and overloaded the systems for immigration and all this stuff, right? And then they say, yes, there's no illegal person. People are not illegal. And look, I'm going to be real with you just real quick. I don't blame a single immigrant for coming over here. But I think they have been used. So here's the thing. Because if I was in a country like a lot of these people come from, and I could get to America, I'd be going to America too, buddy. Because we got it good over here in a lot of ways. All right, but that's the thing. So now they flooded the country. The Democrats have done this, right? They said, you need to come over here. It's for your good. You're going to have a great life. We're going to allow you to do all these things and give you all these benefits. Fast forward. Now Donald Trump's in office, and here he comes. What if there was something that was overarching, that wasn't Democrat, wasn't Republican, that knew if we create this sentiment that's going to allow people to get behind the flooding of immigrants into the country, and they're using those people, by the way, knowing, by the way, the Democrats knew that if a Republican gets in office, they're gonna send ICE to get the people out of the country, right? And it's going to be heavy-handed, and it's going to look bad. It's going to get rough. And so there's going to be a protest against that as well. Guess what? They use that too, because then there's the protest against it, and say they get a little violent, because say the useful idiots of good old Antifa, our buddies over there in Black Bloc, they get out there to get a little violent, start throwing things and agitating and hurting people, right? Now the government has to come back. Maybe now the president puts the National Guard in the streets. Now the National Guard gets attacked, and then that instigates, and that goes to a whole other thing, right? You see how this is going back and forth, but guess what happens throughout all this? The government gets more power every step of the way, while everybody's fighting about, well, there's no illegal people, and this, that, and the other, and you hate immigrants, and you do this, and well, you just don't care about our country because you're allowing these people to flood in. So while they've got us fighting over what's right and what's wrong for our country, none of what we ever said had anything to do with any of it to begin with at all. They've taken it upon themselves to let every single step of this whole process occur. And the whole time through it, what's going to end up happening is the government's going to have increased surveillance, increased police state, National Guard presence on the street potentially, breaking the ice on that again since the LA riots, Kent State. You see what I'm saying? They can use both things to make things happen. And none of us have any say in it. I don't think any Democrats wanted to use these people as pawns. They probably just believed, hey, they're looking for a better life. I don't think any Republicans sitting there, most of the people that vote Republican are not sitting there saying, I hate these people. They're concerned about the country being crushed under the pressure of too many people coming in, too many different ideologies at once. People aren't assimilating. They're not becoming American. There's a lot of factors here. Okay, let's see here. High country has a point. Let's read that point. Don't take things at face value. Absolutely. You can totally tell AI is fake. Yeah, if you do enough research, yes. Consume the goodness. Okay, you're talking to each other. High country has a point. We read that. Unfortunately, not everyone does their own research. Susan, you're right. People do not do their own research. It's probably where we're at in our country today. I can't speak to your country, but I'd love to hear about what you have to say. But I believe a lack of research is a lot. And keep in mind, we didn't have the best choices for presidents over the last several, probably at my entire lifetime, to be honest with you. Let's just be real. So that's not where you're going to have to do. You're going to have to actually start to think on your own. Local people may be the most important. Local officials and elected officials may be the most important individuals that you can actually vote for, because you may actually still have a choice to some degree. Because Desert Living says she would vote for me. So there we go. So at least I would get one vote. Maybe I'd get one vote. And then, we would go from there. And maybe I should run, and then I'd be able to say things, right? But I don't think I'm articulate enough, guys. I'm still working on my articulation, right? My ability to say things, and I'm still working on that. And I still think that I suck at it, personally. You know what I'm saying? So but this is why I did the other channel, so I could just get in front of the camera and talk. And this whole time, I'm probably setting myself up to be on all the lists. And I thought about that the other day, and I was like, man, now Antifa is going to say, oh, he thinks we're idiots. They're going to probably try to dox me. It is what it is. I'm exposing their bookstores. Let's see here. Most of my time is research, Desert Living says. Whenever I'm covering a video, 90% is research, as it should be, because that way at least you know what you're putting forth into the world. Susan says, so many people go into politics with the best of intentions. By the time they get to the point in their careers where they really can do good, many, but not all, have lost sight of all that. And I think you've struck on something very true, Susan, because that's what I see a lot. I see a lot of times people, they go into politics, and I think they genuinely believe what they are saying, when probably at the time they're trying to get elected, right? Or when they're talking to people, they're developing this reputation around them, and this integrity that they might have, all for that to get to the point where there's so many things, like I said, So maybe there's like a cause or something that you really care about, and somebody comes out of nowhere. You don't know who this person is because you're new to politics. You're at a party, and like I said, I've been at parties with very wealthy people. I've been at parties in the trailer park. This kind of politics happens on all sides, guys. Not just in politics, but like in life, right? But it's kind of political. It's Machiavellian in a way. And so somebody comes up to you. They know this weakness. They know that you want, to, I don't know. I mean, just any cause. Name a cause that you believe in a lot. And this person's going to give you the ability to really make a difference over there. But you got to help them get this bill passed, right? And that bill, it's not necessarily the best bill in the world, right? But you want to be able to make a difference where you said you would make a difference, right? So here's where the politics come in. It's like, okay, you'll vote for my bill, I'll vote for your bill. You'll help me get the funding to help these people in this country that I want to help, or this place in my county or whatever that I want to help. And here it becomes. Take care, Susan. Thank you for being here. I appreciate your input on amazing input actually today. So thank you for being here. You get what I'm saying? So this is how this happens. This is how people probably get corrupted. I don't think they set out to be bad people. In fact, some of the people that are greatest traitors to this country probably didn't set out to be bad people. Some of the people that have affected our freedom in negative ways here, and some of the corrupt politicians probably didn't set out saying, I'm going to be a bad person today and I'm going to hurt these people. You know what I mean? If something happens along the way, here or there, you have a weakness, they find the weakness. All right, let's catch up to the chat. There's some truth to that. Okay, yeah, sorry, I'm reading this. The digital ID, that will roll out for that purpose, for what I was talking about. Speak better than you think, my friend. Thank you, Kendra. Possibly. Desert Living says, I thought the same thing when I cover certain topics. No, Desert Living, you speak very well. You're very articulate. And your microphone setup, everything's good. Your audio is really good. But you yourself are articulate. So don't think that you're not. I think it's a thing we all kind of feel, you know what I mean? We get on the camera. I don't like my voice. Like when I hear my voice recorded and played back, I don't like the sound of it. I hate to have to edit videos because I have to hear my voice, over and over and over again. Like say you ever edit a video and you get the clip and you're clipping it at a certain place, and you have to hear that thing like 5-10 times. And you're like, man, this sucks. But you're the only one that has to remember. You're the only one that has to hear that 5 or 6 times. When the video goes out, they're going to hear it once. It's going to it's going to go in one ear and out the other with most people anyway. So don't let that bother you. Dan says we always think we're not good at whatever we're doing. You're very articulate, John. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate that. A little confidence boost is not bad every now and then. I promise I won't let it go to my head. Let's see. Everybody saying good night to Susan. Yeah, it's great seeing Susan in the chat. She's laughing. All right. Thank you so much. Yes, no, seriously, Desert Living, you do have a very good, you're more articulate than I am, I think. I mean, for sure. And your research is impeccable. I've got to get the OBS studio on a laptop very soon so that I can share articles, because I want to show, especially on the other channel. On this channel, it doesn't matter. I just do car stuff and make plasma blasters and go to car shows and drive around and go to video town, do all kinds of stuff. I videoed that town last week. And I like doing that kind of stuff. And that's what I really want to do on this channel. But for what I'm doing over on Real Thoughts, and Real Thoughts, I just started as a just sit in the car talk channel. But I'm starting to see the need to be able to share certain aspects. I keep getting into these. I can't help it. Guys, let me know if you like this. I really can't help it. And this is why we do it on this channel. That's why I started the other channel, because we get in a live on this channel. I think we're going to talk about electric cars or like DoorDash or eBay hustles. We always end up talking about freedom. And it's because I'm passionate about it, guys. And so I do end up there all the time. And so that's why I created the other channel, so that we could do that. And I think I am seeing the need to be able to get in the laptop, get in the OBS studio, and actually be able to share some of the stuff I'm looking at that that to you guys, while I'm talking, maybe not on a live stream format at first, because I need to get where I can use it, right? But I think I could, dude, if you guys could see some of the stuff that I'm seeing, I think you'll understand I mean, I know you do. I know a lot of you are actually on a similar page, whether you agree or not, but I think you actually understand what I'm saying. But yeah, it's important to be able to have those articles and be able to show. And I've never been able to do that. I'm just on the cell phone today. And so I'm not able to do that as much. But media OBS, that's when you make it to politics. That's when I'll make it to politics, when I have OBS Studio. I tend to think that for a bit before answering a question, I say a lot of ums to make sure. Yeah, so I say a lot of ums as well. See, there you go. And I'm trying to get better at that. And that's one of the best things about, like, I guess that's one of the good things about YouTube. If you have a reason to be here, and I have a reason to be here, obviously have fun. This channel is about fun, really. But, you know, the things we're talking about right now, probably mostly going to be oriented on the other channel. And but I have a reason for it. And you can see the reason for it. I can see people attacking their own freedom everywhere. It's just a lack of education. I think it's like indoctrination from schools, a lot of things going on. Like, man, if one person could hear what I'm saying or thinking or see what I'm seeing and or be inspired to go do your own research and go look for these things yourself. I mean, because the things that we're talking about, guys, goes back for years and years and years, for decades, centuries even. You know, when people talk about the New World Order like it's something that's coming. No, guys, the New World Order is here. The New World Order was toppling the kings and having what we have here, and then whatever this is going to be. Remember, we're in the early stages. 250 years is young for a country. Young for a country. We talked about the Roman Empire being about 500 years, the Roman Republic, being about 500 years before the Roman Empire. So we're not even halfway there yet. That's what's up, Dan. I'll try to get into that somewhere. I have 3 phones, so maybe I can get into that somewhere. The premiere, but thank you for being here. I appreciate that. Kunja says, "What? Your voice is great. I think the same though." Looking and listening, yeah, it's crazy when you're editing, right? You hear the same that clip because you have to clip that clip at the right part, and that's why I try not to edit, guys. I've tried not to edit recently, like the other channel. A lot of the stuff is no editing. I just one take it. I missed some points because of one taking it. I need to start doing maybe some notes that would help make it a little bit better. I'm trying to hold it all in my head. A lot of times I'll write it down. If it's something that I have like bullet points or whatever that I want to cover, I'll write it down, but I usually don't take it with me. And I probably should have it somewhere visibly available to me so that I can stay on point or stay on target. But I'm trying to learn how to stay on target with a script in my head. Not a script, but like, you know, the idea of what I'm trying to say, but I'm just doing it like this, like we are in a live stream. All this is off the top of the head because it's just coming out. This is things that these are based on things that I've already researched and stuff anyway, so I can kind of talk about it. But I probably need to do a better job of that, But I like the one takes because there's not a lot of editing, guys. I hate editing. I like it if I have the time, but it's just like the whole thing about hearing your voice over and over again, and then it sucks really to do that. But I like editing when I do some of the videos on here with like the cars and the music, or like that Plasma Blaster video I edited. That was fun because I was just putting clips together, put a little music. It sounded like almost like the James Bond video game music. And then it's got the Plasma Blaster stuff. Super cool. Let's see here. Yes, I have the same reason. And I think many people are seeing it. People are starting to open their eyes, and that's that there's so much, that's why there's so much protesting. Yes, I agree with that. And and that's why I was saying, I don't necessarily agree with No Kings protests as far as their premise. A lot of the individuals, they have a premise that I think I can think it's ridiculous because I've done a lot of research on this, and I realized that the president, like Donald Trump, he's not the mustache man. You get what I'm saying? There's a lot more going on behind the scenes, and what they need to be worried about but I don't blame them for worried about freedom or being terrified that freedom is going to be taken away. That's justified. Not just, I just think that the target, the actual thinking of that, like, oh, it's the king, or Trump's going to be the king. Trump's not going to be king. We don't have that kind of we don't have that kind of a government. You know, it just doesn't work that way, and it can't work that way. And if it does work that way, I'll fight against that right alongside of them. I mean, I have no problem with that. I'll be the first one, you know. But I don't think I don't think it's a concern. I think the concern is the things going on behind the scenes. Some big corporations. And look, hey, gonna sound like Antifa here. Some of that corporation stuff with the surveillance state and the working with the government, it's a little bit fascist, right? By definition, when we're working with the actual definition of fascism, as what was his name, Giovanni Gentile or whatever, when he came up with the actual, you know, kind of tenets of fascism, like, there are things that are going on that fall under those tenets. But you can't just call somebody a fascist because they don't agree with what you know. It's like, if I don't believe in abortion, you can't just call me a fascist for that, right? That's not a fascist tenet. It has nothing to do with what fascism is. It's a belief. So you could disagree with that, but you could say, you know, I disagree with that based on this premise or that premise, whatever it is that you believe. You can't just call it fascism. Where the problem is that erodes the meaning of the word. So we got to the point, words losing their meaning. And the reason that's important to understand is that when the words lose their meaning, like words like fascism, when we really see true things that come through that are actually fascist, how are you going to combat that when these guys have been basically crying wolf? You know, the boy that cried wolf, they've been doing that for like 10, 15 years, calling everybody and everything fascist when it's not. Now, when you see real fascism happen, you try to call it out, it's not going to mean anything. It's going to be meaningless. Because people like me are like, dude, well, you've called me that 15 times. You know, do you think I'm a fascist? Like, does anybody here think that I am a fascist? You know what I'm saying? Like, I want as little government as possible. Not an anarchist, but I probably was at one point in my life, like a anarcho-capitalist type. Like, I really believed, like, we don't need more laws. We need, you know, to be a free exchange, like, if I have something you want to buy, you should buy it, be able to buy it from me. There should be any government in between us. Like, I felt that way, and I still kind of feel that way. But I mean, I realized there's a need for certain aspects of government, right? But you see, like, I've been called fascist because I didn't agree with what somebody said. Like, I'm serious. I kid you not. The same type of people that said that they wish that I never have a voice and that I'm never able to speak the things that I believe called me a fascist, believe that or not. Individuals I personally know in my life. To top it off. Catch up with the chat here. Kendra, I always have some kind of notes for videos, at least bullet points. I forget things easily. Yeah, I think notes are important. I need to start doing it, maybe sticking it to the windshield or something so that I have a list of things. I did do that on one video one time, and I think it was like it was on this channel. It was like the top 5 things I like about DoorDash or something like that. I think the video went really well. I had notes. And so, yeah, I kept the video really short. It was able to be concise, and I went right through them and it worked great. So maybe I should do that. You know, I don't think I'll be less genuine because I have notes, right? I'm still not using AI for scripts, though. Dude, this is a battle between, this is the freaking Terminator, guys. Like, I'm not using AI for scripts. And I'm not letting a robot tell me what to say. Not there yet. Desert Living have 4 different editors. That's all I do is edit, but this is one thing I like to do. Yeah. No, yeah, and I like editing when we're making things look cool, like cars and stuff like that. And I guess when I'm talking, you know, once I get into the other videos, the OBS studio, I have the tools, it'll probably be a lot better. Because, listen, when you have a reason to do something, it becomes not easy, but it becomes doable. And you learn things and you'll overcome those things. And I believe that. And I've had enough people asking me to continue doing that, or to begin to do that, really, because we're only just getting, we're not even really cooking on the other channel yet. There's so much groundwork, and some of you guys are going to probably look. So I do have Christian beliefs. Like, I'm not a extreme like Baptist or anything like that, any of the denominations or anything like that. And that's why I was saying, I know the denominations are all over the place. I don't want a Christian country. Let's just be clear with that. We can all be on the same page of wanting freedom, no matter what. And so occasionally there's certain things I believe in I'm going to talk about, but you have to be able to separate those things sometimes from some of the things we're talking about and the technicalities of fighting for freedom. Because at the end of the day, I can have those beliefs because we live in a free country. You can have opposite beliefs if you want because we live in a free country. We live in a country like somebody wants, to oppress Christians, for example, then there's only going to be one way. There's only going to be one way, and that's the ideology of the country. So you can't have an ideologically driven country. If you have a country like we have right now, but people need to be educated on it. I mean, honestly, people need to learn the Constitution holds the government and tells it what it can't do. Constitution does not tell us what we can and can't do. It tells the government what it can't do. That's an amazing document. Even if it was a bunch of Freemasons that wrote it, I don't even know if they believed in God like I do. And I don't care because it's given people the freedom over all this time to do a lot of different things that has been good. Now, that freedom's being abused right now, and this is we're at that point where we have this ideological struggle, and it's testing the very fortitude of that system. And also we have the AI and AI aggregated information systems that also testing the freedom, and things are being pushed through that are really not constitutional, actually. And they're being pushed through pretty fast, and nobody's really even talking about it because it's happening so fast, and people don't really understand it. I'll catch up with the chat. I always have, okay, yeah. So many labels and names being thrown out around to point where people don't even know the actual definitions. I believe you're talking about, fascism was what we were talking about, for example. But yes, there's a lot of other labels and names. And people should look, and I always ask people when they say that, what's your definition of fascism? Because I can go with that, and then we'll figure out if what we're talking about is fascism or not. I'll do your definition. But I believe Giovanni Gentile was the guy that created the tenets of fascism, stuff like that. This would have been, obviously like people like Mussolini and like people like the Mustache Man or whatever would have probably had some idea of what, where they stood on that spectrum of those tenets and stuff. But yeah, to just blatantly just say the word or whatever, it's just crazy. Couldn't imagine using AI script. That's right. Never use AI for scripts. AI lies about certain topics. You need to research and write the script, information that you gather. Absolutely. In fact, so I told my wife, I was like, look, dude, if you see, and you can get on this as well, Desert Living, because you're on this like already, but AI makes a lot of mistakes. I talked to a couple truck drivers. They said they have AI systems integrated in their truck driving, and that it makes mistakes and it's not necessarily reliable. And so they believe that some of those companies are going to go bankrupt because it's really not working the way they say they're going to work, but also it's wrong. And so if you use AI overview on Google, for example, you'll find tons of times where it's wrong. I'll probably find a couple examples and screenshots so that I can, we can do it. Or like I said, you want to jump on that Desert Living, go for it, because we'll both do it. Look, we have somewhat different, we're building audiences. So this is going to reach different people. At some point in time, I'd be happy to collaborate if that's what it comes down to. I got to get my technologicals though. I've had people ask me to collaborate. I'm like, I don't know, man. I don't even know. I've gotten on a StreamYard panel before, somebody else's. I didn't have anything to do with setting it up. I just clicked the link. I've done that before, but I don't know how to do all this stuff. So I'm learning. I got to get the OBS studio and I got to go from there, probably start playing around with that, making regular long form videos. And then I will probably do live streams and stuff. And then we can collaborate. We will knock it out of the park, but until then, build your audience. You know what I mean? I'm going to do the tame and, try to get the word out there. But yeah, the AI overviews and things like that, if you use that, it's going to steer you wrong because a lot of that stuff is incorrect, completely incorrect. And so, that there should be more awareness of that because people are using this like it's just okay to just use it and to look for legal documents and stuff. I'd be terrified to use it for a legal document. Sorry, John, I have to go. It's always hard to leave your streams because they're awesome. Thank you. Appreciate that. Thank you for being here, Kendra. You're probably already gone, but I hope you have a good rest of your evening. I probably won't be on too long because we're at about 2 hours. Always paste the links in your descriptions of where you got the information from so people can go to those sites and make their own decisions. Yep. Bye. You're telling Kendra goodbye. That's right. She's leaving. Yes, that will happen. I would love to have you collab. Okay, that would be awesome. That would be awesome. I can add you to one of my streams. Yeah. So I can, it's 2 hours, not 3. 3 hours is crazy. I have live streamed. The longest I've ever live streamed was like 4.5 hours. And I was at a racetrack and I was holding a GoPro in one hand, live streaming from that, hooked to a hotspot that was another phone, and then I had another phone that I was filming race, like drifting. And I was filming a video for the next day to come out while I was live streaming, while I was filming, and it was like I was there for like 4 hours doing that. But I had a blast. It was fun. I was like interviewing people and stuff. I really enjoyed that day. It was kind of hard because the signal was a little sketchy, but we had so many people in and out of the chat, and I was like, it was fun because I filmed the drifting and stuff anyway, so I was capable enough of doing that where I was like live streaming at the same time. It was fun, dude. So I've done a lot of stuff on this channel. I've done a lot. If you look at my lives, there's one that's like 4.5 hours or something. It's crazy. But yeah, we'll collaborate sometime. Desert living would be nice. I mean, I would definitely be down. I would be down to do that. I think we're on the same page enough, and we may even differ enough to make it interesting. But I think we're on the same page in a lot of ways, enough to where we're going to get on there and probably not be yelling at each other, which is great. Always a good thing. And yeah, so but yeah, don't use the AI overviews. I think somebody's commenting about that right now. I love you, XOXO. Specifically, I've used studying Christopher Columbus, and I'll ask the basic questions of all sorts, not even politically charged at all. You were out taking, oh, hi, it's a wealthy, hi, Dan, how you doing today? Welcome to the live stream. We've been going for 2 hours, so you caught me here, so 2 hour mark. Just about, we got about 5 minutes until the 2 hour mark, but I'll go for a little while as long as everybody's here. It'd be a great combo. Yes, it would. I think it would, and I think I've learned a lot from you. You have a lot of interesting jobs. I learned on that live the other day about some of the work that you've done, which is really cool, and I'm super interested to learn from that. But also, yeah, some of the goings on and things and freedom. And I think I could talk about freedom for hours. I think I could. So I can add some something to the conversation, I think. And but definitely I need to do the OBS studio. I think Dan and I were actually talking about this last week, but I need to do the OBS studio so that I can actually provide some of the statistics and stuff. And it's hard to so I would do this in like comments, and there's been comments that I've actually responded to, and I'm like, yeah, according to this study and according to that study, but I can't leave links in the comments. And so I can leave links in my comments probably, but not somebody else's channel. So it kind of leaves you a little bit, yeah, that's why I have my own channel. And that's why everybody should just have their own channel. That way you can say whatever you want to do. Sorry about this, guys. I gotta do that as quietly as I can. Sorry. I don't like the drinking noise, but it's 2 hours of talking, guys. I like the Antifa useful video, idiots video. Thank you, Dan. Appreciate that. Freedom is the most important because we are about to lose our freedoms. Yeah, I think so. I think this technological thing, this advances, and like I said, the No Kings people are focusing on Trump, and yes, he's pushing a lot of the technological advances that, believe it or not, that are going to actually probably, make this possibility. A lot of people talk about the social credit score in China. And I've heard people say that, well, it's not that bad, and there's some people that have never even noticed it. And it's like, well, maybe you haven't done enough to notice, you haven't done the things that trigger the social credit score. But also, there's been pushback in certain provinces and things like that. I mean, they're not 100% cohesive over there. And so not everybody is on the same level as far as the big cities versus certain areas out in the rural countryside. But also the technology is just within the last 2 years or so getting online where it can actually be a thing. And so we're going to see. And I think what we're going to see, and think about this, guys. Now, we talked about Kent State earlier, but Tiananmen Square, we can talk about Kent State here in the United States, right? It's terrible events, and we can talk about it. We're allowed to. In China, you can't talk about Tiananmen Square. Can't do it, even to this day. And so they do not have freedom to the degree that we have. And it's something to consider. And if you did so, I mean, I think you did, I'm not sure what the consequences would be, but it'd probably be pretty bad. But at the very least, you probably wouldn't have a very good social credit score. Let's see. He's the one who signed the AI Stargate Initiative deal. Yep. We'll make it just like China. That's right. I do think that that's possible. Desert living. And well, they're pushing it. Possible or not, it is possible. It's just a matter of when it's going to happen. And you know, it's interesting today with the Amazon Web Services issues that were happening earlier. It's like, keep in mind, guys, and keep in mind that these things all have to go through data centers. So while they're building this system, and not far from me, like up in Virginia, there are massive data centers everywhere. We call it the East Coast. They could say the East Coast. That's what they're talking about. It's mostly Virginia. They've swept up a lot of land, and they've installed. You can look it up. They've installed these massive data centers, and that's what's required to run all of this stuff that we're doing online. And that's what happened this morning with the Amazon Web Service. Well, actually, I think it was like the communication with the data center. But either way, I don't think they fully know. I don't think the news fully knows now because they haven't even gotten all of it completely resolved yet. Up until just a couple hours ago, I had an Amazon Flex driver in my area telling me they still couldn't get work, which they couldn't get shifts, which means their system wasn't up yet. And so that means they're still having issues. Welcome to the house, Daily Supercars, Daily Owned Supercars. Hope you're doing well. Great to see you. It's been a while. Daily Owned Supercars has been around for a long time. Daily Owned Supercars was there when I did the 4.5-hour live at the drift track. I believe you were one of the people that was hanging out with me that day when we were at the drift track. And 4.5 hours live on the GoPro, filming videos at the same time, just absolutely rocking and rolling. That's why I know I'm capable of doing some of this stuff. I just don't know the technicals, and I have to learn. You just have to learn. But yeah, I mean, I've been there. Let's see. You should see the data centers, many acres of these data centers. It's insane. Absolutely. They are very huge. Are you saying what is the big deal about? Are you talking about the Amazon Web Services that crashed today? Or like this morning, 3 o'clock, whatever. I don't know if crash is the actual term. But yeah, so they had issues, connectivity issues with the data centers, or the issues at the data centers themselves for whatever reason. Like I knew people that were, Amazon, worked on different levels of Amazon, not able to do their work today. I looked at, because I saw Robinhood. I have a little small side account on Robinhood, you know what I mean? And I looked on there today, and I was like, for a while you couldn't make trades. I was like, wow, that's interesting. So that's pretty big. So they use Amazon Web Services. So a lot of these other, Canva uses Amazon Web Services. I have Canva, but I didn't check it. But I was just driving and doing my eBay sourcing today. So normal day for me, but all this stuff was happening. I had people hitting me up about it. Yeah, the data centers are massive. Dan says, do you know why VA is the data center capital? I would love to know, Dan. Latency between either the EU or the West Coast, right in between. Yes, so geographically. I believe I watched a couple, informational type videos on, they're very dry, informational videos, but they were a lot of information in there about these data centers. I believe that's what they were saying. Is the East Coast is between basically the biggest things going on. You got Silicon Valley, you got all the rest of the country, then you got Europe as well. Yeah, we're right in between. Miles and miles of data centers. The people that the people that live in those areas are pissed about the noise from those data centers. Do you know how much electricity is needed to run AI? Yeah, it's crazy. It's a lot. And you're right that a lot of people are upset about it. Now, that's one of the things that I was seeing is that people in local areas are not very happy about these data centers going in. First of all, they're taking out a lot of forest to do this. They're put them in forest, not put it in the middle of the city. And they do take a tremendous amount of power, which they have to rewire the power. And in some cases, guys, they're putting in power plants just for these data centers. Of course, they're going to have to. all the while they're trying to push the electric cars, which I'm not, like I said, I've said in the past, I have a video on this channel that I did a bit of research, and I put my links, Desert Living, for the information on electric cars. So I have an EV video, a couple EV videos, but I have one where I'm talking about some of the downsides of it. And I expressed in that video, I'm not anti-EV. I do think our power grid is anti-EV though, and it's not ready for everybody and all the cars to become, completely electric vehicle. I don't think we're ready. And also the things that constitute the batteries, the things they make it up with, terrible consequences of having to build all these batteries so rapidly and getting the information from, or not the information, but the ingredients, the minerals, the metals, the things that are required to make the batteries. Now, hopefully they'll build the batteries better soon, and we'll have to have half those ingredients. Maybe we can make it a little bit better. But yeah, the cobalt is one of the big ones that was hurting people. Talking about the Congo, all of that stuff, man. And if you go look at my video on this channel on that, it's before I had the other channel. I did that, and I have a lot of resources that show that. Keep up the chat here. This is why Tesla is worth so much. Batteries, guys. Yeah. The data centers need lots of AC. Fever dream. They do need cooling. In fact, I think there are a lot of data centers in like Arctic places, like conditions in the Arctics and stuff like that. I think, or not, maybe not Arctic, but like colder countries. I know that there's a push to put data centers in colder countries, but like Dan said, there is an advantageous, aspect of being geographically located in between all of the traffic, all of the data, the traffic between the EU, all of Europe really, and the West Coast, Silicon Valley, very important. Let's see. Elon's most brilliant man of our time. Desert Living says, data centers are anti-power plants. They need constant power. They would need lots of batteries. Yeah. Yep. Elon is on it, she says. They can be recycled too. Yeah, the batteries can be recycled. Of course, it's not a perfected art, but yes, they can be recycled. I did a lot of research on this when I did that EV video back then. Daily on supercars, the water will get dirty around these structures. Yeah. The one that will pay are the townspeople. Yes. It's always the ones that pay, right? Saw videos of Elon batteries for his robots and his cars. Daily on, that's true. Elon and his cats. I got you. I know you're talking about cars there. I don't know if Elon is a cat person or not. But yeah. So the batteries, this is wild. Well, so I'm in North Carolina. And this was a big deal. So this was a big deal with the Hurricane Helene that came through in the mountains. And a lot of the areas in the mountains, I did my EV video on this channel before Hurricane Helene, like months before. And we were looking at, even then, I remember, and I have some resources on it there, you can go look at it. But in North Carolina, they were pushing lithium mining in a lot of areas in the mountains out there. It's a different type of lithium mining. It's not that kind where they have the big salt bed, the big beds, you know what I mean? And it looks like big pools of water. It's not like that. It's a different kind of lithium mining. They do it in the mountains. But Elon Musk was also behind pushing. There was a certain company, I can't remember the name right now, but they were pushing the extraction of this lithium from these areas. And they were trying to get these areas basically zoned for that in my state, out towards the mountains. And so there was a lot of conspiracy theories when the Helene, hurricane happened. And a lot of places got redesignated, and our governor at the time, Roy Cooper, came out and he even said, it's going to be better that you give up the land and move, that you don't rebuild on that land and all this. He was encouraging people to move from the land, sell the land cheaply, basically. And this land could then be rezoned and used for mining the lithium. And this was a big deal. And a lot of people got mad and angry about it. And for those of us who had been following it, it was obvious what was going on. And there was a struggle. And so nobody thinks that, of course, nobody thinks that somebody just made the hurricane out of nowhere. But the act of like never letting a good crisis go to waste, might be a little bit of that going on there. These people will get their minds. Let's see. Okay, De Leon, that's true. You guys are talking about, okay. Yeah. I've always wondered where you were. North Carolina. I almost moved there for work. There's an aerospace company I was interested in. Yeah, we actually have aerospace companies around here. So, not to put myself out there too much in detail, you can do your own research, but they actually are spread out. There's multiple places, but there are some people here that work in aerospace. A lot of the places around here, they just make the seats for the airplanes, and some people, they make more advanced parts for the airplanes. So it just depends on where you're at. Thank you, Desert Living. I appreciate that. That's awesome. Thank you so much for the dono there. Let's see. Daily on supercars. Ultimately, the government is just worried about big companies. Oh, this government just worried about big companies. A lot of people are hurting. I think you're right, Daily on supercars. This is up the alley of a lot of things we're talking about. Where somebody is not fascist because they don't believe what you believe, but there are elements of actual tenets of fascism going on in the government, that's for sure. And that people are overusing this word like crazy and ignoring the actual thing. They're using it, calling people like me fascist, crazy, and they're using that, and then they're forgetting the things that you're talking about. You know, these a lot of the big companies here are being propped up by the government, essentially government contracts and things like that. And a lot of this is going to be used to enslave us, which is wild. And it's easy to see how it is. It's easy to see how it's going to happen. The AI aggregated information centers are real. The AI aggregated surveillance state. You know, earlier we talked about the cameras that are here in my town, and they're probably in your town, the AI cameras. That, you know, the company puts them in for free, guys. So the camera's not the product. They're not selling the camera. They're taking the data and they're aggregating it. And what they're going to do with that data, I don't think it's not a specific thing for that specific intersection or whatever. It's all the intersections together. And that's why they're going to do it. I love you, XO. XO says, my dad worked at GE aircraft engines for 30 years ago in Raleigh. Yes, and I'm not far from Raleigh, guys. So, yeah. GE aircraft, they have a lot of, in the outskirts of Raleigh, actually they have a lot of different places. Like I said, some places make the seats, some places make the engines, some places make different parts and things like that. So there's a big aerospace, of course, I'm near the Research Triangle Park as well. There's a lot of things. In fact, there's a few conspiracy theories that you remember that thing that happened around 2019, 2020, the 19, right? The C-19. There's a lot of people that speculate that might have come out of a lab not far from here, actually. In actuality, they were working on it. I actually know some people that were working on some of that stuff with Mr. Fauci or whatever, like, you know, and all of that stuff long before this stuff was actually released. So whether it came from here or not doesn't really matter. This was not something that was just isolated to China, but it probably did come from China, but I don't think it was isolated. I think it was something that we knew about. Some people knew about. I say we, but I had no clue about it, right? Like some people did, though. Some scientists in certain universities, right, that had ties to other individuals, you know. I have to be careful. I don't want to out anybody that I know right now, but there's a lot going on, guys. It's not as simple as what the news makes it out to be. When these things happen, you know, the news just gives you the narrative for the moment, but there's a lot of stuff behind the scenes. There's a few other things that I'd like to share with you guys eventually, but I don't know how exactly that I'm going to do it, and I have to be careful, right, how we talk. Our tax money. Yeah, okay, hold on, I missed something. Remember what we said. People say all or they, that is the issue. That's true, Dan. I believe you're probably talking about the fascist. Yeah, the fascist. People talking about that. It's become a meme. It's just a joke now. And it's like it doesn't mean anything. And so when actual fascism happens, which is happening at different levels, it's just not the thing that people are pointing to and saying fascism. That's the issue. And that's why things like that are allowed to become an ongoing phenomenon. It's not by accident that these people are allowed to go around and run around, and they're encouraged to. I don't say they're allowed to, because you can say whatever you want. I do believe in freedom, but you're encouraged to do that. A lot of the universities, if you looked up those studies that I put in that comment in that video, Dan, you'll see I named the studies. I couldn't put the links in the comment, but the studies that show that beyond the shadow of a doubt, universities and schools they lean left in their faculty and their the professors. One of the studies was actually specifically on professors, and it found a 3-to-1 in most cases, in some cases 4-to-1 left to right leaning bias in colleges. And that's no shade on anybody that leans left or anything like that. I think the left-right paradigm is actually not an accurate depiction of what politics are to begin with. So if you're liberal, in a certain sense, and liberal now is different than liberal in the 1800s, and it's different than liberal in the early 1900s, right? To be liberal, you have to be different than what is the status quo. Status quo has changed. To be conservative, you have to be conservative to conserve something that already exists. So if you were conservative in the 1800s, or if you were conservatives in 1776, if you were conservative, you wanted a king, right? If you were liberal then, you wanted freedom, right? If you're conservative now, you probably want the freedom that we had, or at least some of the protections and privacy that we might have had in the last 20, or that we had 20, 30, 40, 50 years ago. If you're liberal now, it could get dangerous because you're getting into water that we don't know. How much more free can you be when everybody's free to run around and say whatever they want? Which is a great thing. I think we should be. But you see what I'm saying? You push it too much. So liberal is different at different hit times in history. And conservative is, of course, different in different times in history. And left and right is a largely misunderstood metric of the mechanisms of political, well, he leans left or he leans right? That's what you guys are saying in the chat. When I get paid, the government takes 50% of my pay. Then the state of Cali takes 14.5%. Then whenever I go to buy something, Cali takes 8.5%. It's 8.5% out there, sales tax now in California. Man, sorry. That's crazy, dude. So it's like 7% here in North Carolina, I believe, still. The more you make, the more they take. Yes, we have to be careful of what we say on YouTube. They are monitoring all of it. Yes, and I know I'm on the list. Probably all of it. So all of us are on some list, first of all. I don't fear being on a list. I believe it's probably a feature, not a bug of reality, But yeah, I mean, absolutely, you're going to get flagged for what you say. And then sometimes they're going to take the video down, and sometimes they'll just demonetize it. It just depends. But yeah, we do have to be careful. That's what Charlie Kirk was seeing. Yep. I agree with that. So Charlie Kirk was saying some things that were a little bit different towards the end of his life from what he had been saying before. Because remember that he was instrumental in getting Donald Trump elected. But then there were some things that have been happening that have been a little bit questionable, right? Obviously, if you have somebody, if we're talking about the conflict in the Middle East, for example, I don't want to get too far into this because it's one of those touchy subjects. But guys, I don't think anybody thinks that the violence going over there is necessarily a good thing. I don't think that. Right? I certainly don't. So I didn't vote to fund violence in the Middle East. I didn't do that. I didn't vote to continue to fund weapons in Ukraine necessarily. But I also see that Ukraine probably doesn't have much of a choice. So, it's a tough situation. There's that nuance that has to happen, but there's the reality that like sometimes people vote for people, and like Charlie Kirk probably helped Trump get elected. He might not have agreed with everything at the end. Towards the end, he may not have been agreeing with everything that was going on. Because a lot of stuff that's going on is not Trump. It's not Charlie Kirk. It's not you. It's not me. There's corporations involved. There's lobbyists. There are other foreign entities involved. There's intelligence agencies involved. So there's a lot going on behind the scenes that it's above our pay grade, It's just how it is. Let's see where we're at. He saw what was happening, and this is what caused him to start his organization. Yeah. Yep. Absolutely. So a lot of people are stepping up trying to be like Charlie Kirk. That's not going to happen. It's not going to happen because that guy had whether you agree with him or not, that guy had a very good way of speaking with people and dealing with like young people, dealing with people who had like radically different beliefs. And in a lot of cases, he would have those people walking away saying, hey, good conversation. Thank you for having the conversation. I have some things to think about. And that's hard to do with some of these, like some people that are college indoctrinated. It's actually kind of hard to do with them because not only do you have the knowledge that you've been given in college, but you have you've been, and a lot of people did this to Charlie Kirk, who did not have a college degree, by the way. A lot of people would, you not only have the thing that you've been told to believe, but you have the credentials to say that that's official. It's more valid information than the information that you have because you don't have a college degree. And so when I argue, that, maybe Foucault was just saying a lot of things that he was saying because he had these proclivities and he was a sexual deviant. Well, that's not a valid argument, John, because you don't fully understand the ins and outs of postmodernism as it was taught by Michel Foucault. Well, I read the books. I don't understand what you're saying. I've read his essays and stuff. So I've even listened to professors present the information in a very favorable light. I understand some of it. I agree with a tiny bit of it, actually. There's nuance, but, I'm not college educated. Let's see. So I Love You says, I don't know how many of my regular friends ask me what racism means when I'm talking to them about political stuff. Are you saying fascism? Fascism means when I'm talking about political stuff. So many people wonder why people write that on poster boards and scream it at people. Yes. Yeah, absolutely. Well, they don't know what it means. And look, this is the thing. So I will always ask, and if somebody calls you fascist, whatever, or if somebody says this is fascist, just say, what is the definition of fascist for you? Because they might be working with some different definition. At least then, when you ask somebody what they mean by something, you now know at least where they're coming from. Maybe now you can get this conversation down to a point where you understand, okay, they're seeing this as some kind of an injustice, and that's what they believe. So I can at least appreciate that about what they're saying. And I'm all for that, but I think a lot of it is just crazy. It's crazy talk, right? Let's see. It's getting dark here. I'll turn the light on. Light. That help? Let's see. Daily on supercars. Thanks to Palantir now. No, you're right on. Daily on supercars, you're on the mark. When you're talking about Palantir like that, that you're on the mark, dude. You do your research on Palantir, dude. You will be, and it sounds like you might have, but do the actual research. You'll be astonished. And if you're going to be scared, if you're going to be scared to cover something, it's probably that. I've already said it so many times on my channel. Like I said, I'm probably on the list. The AI aggregated information data systems or whatever are probably, they already have me in the data bank, right? Talking about that. But yes, if you look at what they're doing or what they're capable of doing and what they want to be able to do, it's almost like Minority Report, where, well, this person thinks this way, they have this personality, they have this motivation, they have this capability. You get what I'm saying? And we live in America where a lot of people are very capable. We have the 2A here. People are like very capable of doing things. Doesn't mean they're going to do it. 99% of people don't ever do anything that is wrong. Doesn't mean they're not capable. A lot of ex-military people here. So if you just go on people's motivation, capable, whatever beliefs, you could start to see where this goes down a very dark authoritarian road. It's a Wealthy Life says, I should tell my personal story to why I don't like Trump. I voted for him in 2016, but not after, due to people I spent time with. Well, I would definitely be interested in hearing that. No one is going to replace Charlie Kirk. Good luck. That's what he said. No one could replace Charlie Kirk. He had a gift. Absolutely. Desert living. I agree with you. There's certain gifts that certain people have. They're very unique. And you can't. And the more you try to replicate them in an artificial way, it's going to just come off as artificial, and it's not, you can't do that. Like, I'm sorry. There's a reason why that dude, and no Turning Point USA is ever going to do that. Giving money to Turning Point USA is not going to help, because you can't, no, these people are not having the conversations the way Charlie Kirk was having those conversations. I watched those conversations. My wife used to watch those conversations all the time, and I would come in and I would see him, and I did think to myself, wow, this guy has a very good way of handling this conversation, and these people that are yelling and screaming and foaming at the mouth against him. And for the most part, stayed respectful and also very articulate all the way throughout. And guys, you cannot college educate that. And that's what I'm saying about the college indoctrination. It's not always indoctrination, but obviously, if you're not thinking for yourself, you go into college, you have 4 professors, and 3 of them are extreme leftists. There's going to be a bias that's given to you, whether you take that out or not. It's a wonder there's any conservatives that come out of college, but there are, which tells me that there is a little bit of validity to that, to understanding things in a conservative way, kind of wanting things to be free like they have been before in the past. Desert Living says she'd love to hear that story. Yep, I sure would too. Charlie did something that no one has ever done in history of politics. He made the young vote count, and that has never happened before. The young vote never really mattered in an election. Yep. I wanted to cover Palantir, but I'm staying away from that company. Yeah, gotta be careful, man. Well, they got those texts right there that you're writing in my comments. You might want to delete that. No, I'm just playing. No, but seriously, it does feel that way when we're talking about that. Every time I say that company's name, I'm speaking the truth, but I realize it's a dangerous truth, because they may not be there yet, but once they're where they need to be, or where they want to be, who knows, man? Who knows what will actually come of that? And so, let me see here. Yeah, you're laughing at that. That's true. But yeah, Charlie Kirk definitely did something special. And I wish we had better candidates for president, because that young vote, I think when I was young, I was a little bit, I didn't know. I wouldn't have said I was a Republican or Democrat for sure. I wouldn't have called myself a conservative at the time, but I knew that I didn't like the wars that George Bush was doing. I knew I didn't like some of the things that Clinton had done when it came to, a lot of people liked Clinton, but I mean, guys, remember Ruby Ridge, Waco, those things happened under Clinton's watch. We talk about the National Guard going into cities and things now, but those things happened under his watch. The things like, those people were not, whether they were doing things right or wrong or whatever I'm not going to get into that. But if you look up Ruby Ridge and Waco, Texas and all this, and you look at what happened, it wasn't handled very well. And it could have been handled a lot differently. Like David Koresh, they could have gone in and just arrested him, and they could have gone in and potentially either turned him into a witness or done different things, or they could have arrested anybody else that they had actual crimes on in the organization, in his church or organization, whatever you want to call it, Seventh-day Adventist church. So not all Seventh-day Adventists are like that, I'm sure. But they didn't handle that situation properly. This is under Clinton's watch. And then, like I said, George Bush, the wars, where I'm watching, I think it was in 7th or 8th grade. What was that, 7th grade? I know it was in middle school. I'm watching on the TV. They had us all watching the TV when the towers occurred, when the towers happened. Of course, a lot of people don't talk about Building 7 anymore. And the reason for that is that there's no structural reason why Building 7 should have happened the way it did, but yet it did. So there's like more going on to it, and I'm not going to get into all that. But we watched that happen. They said the terrorists came from this country, so we're going to go invade this country right now as a result of this thing. I said, that doesn't make sense. Of course, and I know people that ended up deploying from that whole mess. It's just, everybody did. We all had some kind of experience because of that, like of people that we knew, or whatever. And so I was definitely against wars and all that stuff. I thought it was crazy, and I was against the Patriot. The way that the Patriot Act came out, guys. This is the first thing, like the Palantir stuff today, and what they'll use this Antifa thing. The reason I said that I don't think they should designate them as terrorists is they'll use this thing to push more Patriot Act like stuff onto the people. That's what they'll do. And I'm not a fan. So Charlie, okay, what was I saying? So life, you made a ton of money on Palantir. Okay, I missed something. Made a ton of money. Easiest trade ever. Yeah. No, for sure, Dan. They pump that stock like crazy, man. Palantir. Yeah, dude. I honestly think I might have made some money on them too, dude. So I'm not one of those people that's like, I'm not going to invest in this because it's like amoral or whatever. Because, dude, I understand they're just they're pumping it, right? And so, I think I made a small, tiny fraction of what you made on Palantir. But yeah, Palantir jumped. They pumped it like crazy, and that's because the government is going to pay the bills. Charlie got the young vote for Trump. So many people came out to support Trump. Charlie did amazing things for Trump in that election. Yes. Yes, he did. And that's why I wish we had better candidates, you know. And of course, Trump, dude, like, I'm not going to lie, dude, guys, I thought Trump was the better candidate. I really did. I was slightly enthusiastic about it, actually, because I saw what was happening with Biden and Harris. And the thing is like, I knew this when I was younger. I was into conspiracy theories and stuff when I was younger. Look, I understood the left-right paradigm, and I was like, I'll never get into that. I will never buy into that BS. They're just playing each other back off against each other. And here I was, and here comes Trump, and there's all this other stuff going on. They tried, you know, and of course they tried to take him out. All this stuff happened. I'm like, man, and I mean, I would have been for him the first time, you know, I'm just saying, and the second time, but all three times. But, yeah, and then, you know, of course, Harris was just a terrible candidate. Of course, a terrible candidate. And it's almost like on purpose. And I realize this now. It was probably on purpose. And now I'm starting to see it again, the way I used to see it. And I'm not saying I'm black-pilled. I'm not. But it's just impossible to not realize once you see the whole thing. Trump talks wall. Democrats let in, tons and tons of immigrants. Trump comes in heavy hand. You know, Democrats push protest. Protests get, you know, out of hand. Trump pulls in the power of the police state and all this stuff. It's too coordinated to me, man. I just, and then maybe I'm crazy. Sounds a little tinfoil hat, maybe, but it just seems like it's coordinated, guys, from both sides. And, you know, it's almost like they couldn't have made it easier for Trump to win, really. And just like with Biden, it's like, yeah, we're just going to make Biden win. These people are going to get upset. Do you guys remember that Biden was actually inaugurated behind a fence with barbed wire? It was very dystopian the way Biden was inaugurated. Usually inaugurations have the most people show up, millions of people. You look at Obama's inauguration, it was incredible how many people showed up to Obama's inauguration. Nobody showed up to Biden's inauguration because they weren't allowed, because it was like, dude, you're going to do this. You're going to have this president. This is the president, whether you like it or not, and you're going to sit there, shut up, and watch it on TV. You're not even allowed to come in. Barbed wire shit. It was weird, man. It was like one of the weirdest things I've ever seen. It was the most dystopian thing I think I've probably ever seen in real life in America in my lifetime. Really crazy, and they want you to forget about that, guys. But I'm missing some of the chat. Let me check out what you guys are saying. Yeah, I could care less about politics, investing with money. Yeah, when it's when we're investing to make money, guys, these guys are making money on us, and mostly making money just like crapping all over the retail investors. So if you're a retail investor and you can make money on these moves, and you can do it like with less risk or whatever, I would say go for it, dude, because the last thing that they want to do is you know, they're not doing this for us, but if you can make a little bit of money on it, dude, you should, because that's more power in the hands of the voter, of the person. So forget, the politics and stuff when it comes to that. Unless it's a company that obviously that you just, I understand, whatever, dumping a stock, if you hold a lot of stock and you feel like that's going to happen and all this. You got to do what you think is right. I'm all for voting with your dollars. If you don't want to do business with companies, there's companies I don't do business with because I don't necessarily, I don't like the company, man. I'm all for that. But yeah, I'm also, dude, if they're going to make this money, dude, the whales are going to make the money. The companies are going to pump, the market makers are going to make money. Whenever in crypto, these market makers are making money. If you're in profits and you want to take profits, man, like, not financial advice, but dude, They're going to dump the price most of the time on especially digital assets, to flush people out, to flush out all the leverage and all this stuff, and then they're going to pump the prices back up, and it happens over and over and over again. Dude, I've been dealing with like the crypto stuff for a long time. I've been seeing this pattern, dude, and I think it's market makers for the most part. And of course now it might be BlackRock and other people, but dude, they're gonna dump it, and then they're gonna pump, and then every time they pump, of course they're gonna dump, and you're the exit liquidity when you're out there getting excited about it. Oh, it's going up, I'm gonna buy more, and then they're like, yes, good, we have exit liquidity, execute the sales, whatever, and it's just like, it's crazy. All right, so let's see where we're at. Got to run. Nice live, John. You're on fire. Thank you, Dan. I appreciate you being here. I don't believe there would be anyone good to vote for going forward. I kind of agree with that. There's so much corruption. This is coordinated by wealthy. Thank you, Driving Daily. This was a great live, great combo. Got to run. Bye, everyone. Thank you, Desert Living, for being here. I appreciate you, and I appreciate all of you. And I think I am actually going to get off here. It's been 2 hours and 30 minutes. What the heck are you guys doing hanging out with me for 2 hours and 30 minutes? But I do appreciate it. I'll catch you guys on the next live. My face is looking crazy because I don't have professional lighting in the car, and it's dark. So, with that said, I think I am going to call it here. I appreciate everybody that has stopped by, and liked the video, and left your comments and your thoughts in, and we're connecting. That's a great thing. And most of this stuff should be on Real Thoughts Project. Real Thoughts Project, no matter how you say it, it's the same. If you're not subscribed to that channel, you should go over and do it, and check that out if you like freedom, because we are going to be talking about that over there, and it's risky, so I do appreciate the support. All right, with that said, I'm going to call it a day. We're going to end the live, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. I'm out.